out over a vote. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Republican Congressman Tom Rice unseated in South Carolina by a primary challenger, but he was cordial, calling Russell Fry to concede.
You ran a great race, and you're going to make a great congressman.
Rice lost big, just like former President Trump wanted. He targeted the congressman for being one of the 10 House Republicans who voted to impeach him after last year's Capitol riot. But another Trump attempt to unseat a GOP House member critical of him failed.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace beat Trump endorsee Katie Arrington in South Carolina's 1st District GOP primary. Mace thanked those who supported her and Arrington.
Because it's going to make our campaign even stronger in November to keep the first.
That's Fox's Gernal Scott. And Texas Republican Myra Taylor won a special election for an open house seat that had been held by Democrats. She'll be the first Mexican-born congresswoman. More women got abortions in 2020, reversing a trend of abortion decline. The Guttmacher Institute reports 1 in 5 pregnancies were aborted that year, about an 8% increase over 2017. This as we await a Supreme Court decision that could allow states to further restrict abortions. The leaked draft opinion showing conservative justices ready to rule that way led to pro-choice protests outside justices' homes. An armed man was arrested for attempting to kill Justice Brett Kavanaugh. That's prompted the House to join the Senate, approving enhanced security for justices and their families.
It should not have taken a threat against Justice Kavanaugh to force action.
That is House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Two police officers gunned down in California, responding to a motel stabbing in El Monte near L.A. The shooter killed by other officers. All the inflation we're paying? We'll have the Federal Reserve inflating interest rates today, up to a 0.75% hike expected. America's listening to Fox News.
The economy is headed directly for a disaster. The Fed can either raise rates to lower inflation and trigger a stock and housing market crash, or it can keep rates low and potentially cause hyperinflation. That is why you must take action to protect your savings right now. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to diversify your retirement account out of paper assets and into physical gold. The Birch Gold Group IRA is what I recommend to all my family and friends. And today, Birch Gold is giving away a free information kit about how gold IRAs work. To get your free copy, just text the word PROTECT to 989898. It's crucial for you to get this information before an economic disaster is in full swing. Again, text PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free information kit on gold. There's no obligation or purchase required, so do it now. Text PROTECT to 989898. Action, action, action. Use your agency. Take action today.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 6:03, and it is already a hot one here in mid-Missouri. 77 is our current temperature. We're going to be hot today. Our high around 95, but the heat index will make it feel like 100. The National Weather Service has actually extended the heat advisory now through 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. I just spoke to them. That actually happened while you were sleeping overnight, that advisory being extended. The good news is we'll feel a little bit, if you want to call it cooler, on Friday, Saturday, maybe down to around 90, 92 degrees. And they say that the humidity will get a little bit lower as well. Good morning. Here's some of the stories we are working on for you in the 6 o'clock hour. And we begin in the Blair Oak School District in Cole County's Wardsville, where parents turned out last night to testify on both sides of the district's transgender board policy.
The Blair Oaks Board in Wardsville will now review policy and possibly make changes after parents spoke out both for and against the transgender policy last night. The policy deals with transgender students' use of bathrooms, athletic teams, and other issues. Under the current policy at Wardsville, students who identify as transgender can change their names and pronouns to more closely match their gender identity. Once a year, the school district will also designate gender-neutral bathrooms in each building. John Marsh, Zimmer News Network.
All right, John, thank you. Meantime, a Columbia man accused of strangling his wife and then placing her body in a dumpster back in 2006 will be in court next Tuesday. It is a story that has received some national attention. Boone County prosecutors charging 40-year-old Keith Comfort with second-degree murder for the death of his wife, Megan Schultz. Now, Columbia police, you'll recall, found her remains in the city landfill in 2019 after days of searching. They lived on Amelia near Old Highway 63. CPD's probable cause statement quotes Comfort is telling Lake Geneva, Wisconsin police that he and his wife had an argument in 2006. She swung her arms at him, according to him in the court document. Comfort quoted in the documents as saying he took his wife to the ground, strangled her, and placed her body in an apartment dumpster on Amelia near Old Highway 63. No trial date as of yet. The trial was going to take place earlier in the year, but the prosecution wanted to do a psychological examination of the Comfort in this case. The National Weather Service's heat advisory remains in effect through tomorrow now across central Missouri. The NWS says the heat index will feel like 100 degrees today in Columbia, Jefferson City, Booneville, Fulton. They are warning that the temperature will greatly increase your risk of heat-related illnesses, especially with this longevity now of the heat wave. State health officials are also urging you to use air conditioning to stay hydrated and to pace yourself during the heat wave. DHSS Acting Director Paula Nicholson of Fulton says heat and humidity can be a dangerous combination. She is especially urging you this morning to check on your friends and neighbors, especially if you have elderly neighbors or relatives chronically ill. And we have a senior citizen abuse hotline as well in this state. The director is actually urging people to call it if you know of a senior citizen who needs assistance due to heat or disabled adult. That number is 1-800-392-0210. That comes directly from the state health director. Final preparations are underway for the 63rd Central Missouri Honor Flight on Monday. Honor Flight Board President Mary Paulsell tells 93.9 The Eagle 95 veterans from across Missouri will leave Columbia's Courtyard by Marriott Monday morning at 2. She says it's an emotional experience for the veterans who will be taking that flight. It's almost a 24-hour trip.
Not many people in their lifetimes get to walk beside this much history and honor and valor, and it truly has been a life-altering experience for us, as we hope it is for them.
Most of the 95 veterans are from the Vietnam era. They'll return home to a hero's welcome Monday evening between 9:30 and 10. That'll be at the Courtyard by Marriott right here in Columbia on Lamone Industrial Drive. Our news is brought to you this morning by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all of your cooling needs, log on to airserve.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:07. Turning our attention now to sports. The St. Louis Cardinals sweeping a day-night doubleheader with the Pirates on Tuesday at Busch Stadium. They won the first game 3-1. Paul Goldschmidt had a 2-run homer in the game. Then they won the nightcap 9-1. Miles Michaelis just one strike away from a no-hitter. 2 strikes, 2 outs, and the player there hits a double with 2 outs in the 9th inning. Pretty good pitch. He just hit it well. That's all you can really say about that. Michaelis improves to 5-4. St. Louis hasn't had a pitcher throw a no-hitter in 21 years. Bud Smith back in 2001. St. Louis hosting the Pirates again tonight. 6:45, 93.9 The Eagle. Ray Washburn was another player that threw threw at least one no-hitter. Bob Forsch threw 2, one in 77, one in 1983. San Francisco beat the Royals last night by a score of 4-2. Oracle Park, they'll play again today, 2:45. That's an afternoon game because it'll be on ESPN Plus. Again, 2:45 our time. Sports brought to you by Lacrosse Lumber. You can apply now for a full or part-time delivery driver position. Great benefits. Lacrosse Lumber, Grindstone, Columbia. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:08. All right, Nate, thank you, and good work this morning. Right now, clear skies, 77. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:09 traffic check, midmohires.com. Our roads are pretty quiet in mid-Missouri. There's still one lane closed right now on westbound I-70 at the Roachport Bridge as they're doing work. They'll wrap that up at 7 this morning, but go back out and work again tonight, weather permitting, at 7 o'clock. More team coverage, less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Two balls, two strikes, two outs. The pitch to Mitchell. A swing and a fly ball center field. Moving back on it, Bader. The ball's over his head and bounces over the wall. The ball bounces up onto the hitter's backdrop. And there's the first hit in the game for the Pirates as Michaelis was one strike away from the no-no.
He was one strike away, and he was 1 foot away on a terrific effort by Harrison Bader in center field, who dove as best he could onto the warning track. And Miles Michaelis 1 out away from doing something that a Cardinal pitcher has not done in this ballpark, John. And the last time that we saw a no-hitter, it was Bud Smith in 2001.
Man, right here, what a heartbreaking moment. Cardinals won. As a matter of fact, they won both games against the Pirates yesterday. Cards, I think, 2.5 games up in the NL Central in first place. But what a heartbreaking moment. 2 outs. Bottom of the ninth, Miles Michaelis misses the no-hitter. Harrison Bader, by the way, in that drive to center field. Harrison Bader, one of the dudes. The Cardinals have 2 dudes with that long flowing hair. Stephanie's not necessarily a fan. A lot of the girls like that Harrison Bader dude.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's fine. Then there's Brendan Donovan. They've got that long 70s style hair. Anyhow, Harrison Bader goes back. He dives. Can't make the catch. Ends up being a ground rule double in the bottom of the ninth. The cool thing was, and you know, if you've ever experienced this for yourself, nothing better than a big ground shaking, standing, earth shattering, standing.
And that'll be it.
How cool is that? They yank him out of the game, and he gets this standing O. And I hope everybody, at least one time in your life, gets a standing ovation for anything that you ever do.
Well, you know, and that sound is very powerful. Great call, by the way John Rooney described that. He really painted the picture, and that's basically a Gold Glove center fielder. I don't want to criticize. He was probably playing, you know, at that point.
Shallow.
Yeah, he was, and he gave everything he could, and he just missed that ball. But you're right, it was Bud Smith and then Jose Jimenez. I believe that was how that. He didn't last very long. He pitched one, didn't even play that long in St. Louis. He had one in '99. The Forsch in 83 and 78, and then I mentioned Washburn, and then Gibson. Paul Dean threw one as well. There's others, but it's so rare. I mean, it's a long time. But still, one hitter. That's very impressive.
The last pitcher to throw a no hitter for the Kansas City Royals, the pitching machine.
Wow.
It's a joke, street joke, been passed around for years. But it's interesting, as we were kind of talking about this yesterday. The mindset of Miles Michaelis. You are this close to achieving something great. Asked about it afterwards, he says, it kind of stinks. But you're talking like with Trump yesterday. I mean, here's a guy who, you know, you talk about that emotion as a human being. You're this close to achieving some kind of greatness. For Trump yesterday, we talked about, you know, he was this close to achieve, you know, to being reelected and something he wanted. That was his thing. That's what he wanted. He wanted to be president. And there was always that human element. And I think the same thing for Miles Michaelis. You're this close.
Yeah, I mean, that was what people came out on, you know, at the January 6th hearing and saying Trump was, you know, detached from reality, that people around him were saying you lost and he just like couldn't come to terms with it. And it's just, we've all, I think, been there, had a big project, a big event, something major that maybe, you know, you get to the very end and whether it goes your way or not, you're so exhausted and it's been your whole life that you probably are a little bit detached from reality, and especially if it doesn't go your way, right? And I mean, you think of these statewide races, you know, think about someone like Vicky Hartzler, Eric Schmidt, Eric Greitens, they're, every single day working on this campaign for 2 years. And on the night, if you're not the winner, it's going to be hard, especially if it's a really close and hard-fought race and you think that you have a chance. It's going to be hard to come to terms with it for a bit. And so I think, and I'm a Trump fan. I like Trump. But, I think more disappointing is the fact that he had trouble coming to terms with it months later and is still talking about, that the election was stolen. And I think even with all of the data and the facts that we know now, but I think, most of what we hear about January 6th is, immediately following the election. And I think, from just a human being standpoint, it's understandable that you could be slightly detached from reality in the moment.
There's that human element. By the way, coming up, Daily DC Rundown, Stephanie Pels, big things happening, primaries yesterday. And by the way, so today is supposed to be the next hearing for January the 6th. It's not happening. They've canceled it. Here's the excuse they're giving. Well, there's a lot of video and stuff, and our video crew just needs more time to edit stuff. You knew this hearing was coming, and I'm trying to think, and I want to put on my foil hat, like, okay, so really, why aren't they doing it today? What are they waiting on? What's the problem? And I don't know. I try to take people at their word. But it makes me wonder, like, why are you canceling it today? Why is it not happening today? Their excuse, well, we just need more time. You've been preparing since January the 7th of 2021. What do you mean you need more time? You've been on this vindictive vendetta for well over a year now, and now you say, we need some more time. We can't do it on Wednesday.
And you hired like a TV producer guy, right? Shouldn't he know how to like chop up some video and replay it on the screen?
That's what I would think. So I would like to think there's something BS-ish there. And to the thing with Trump, and I too am a Trump fan. Hannah, did I ever tell you the story about 2015?
Oh, good Lord.
You've
You've mentioned it a couple times.
A couple times over the past 7 years. I got my tail kicked for a long time here on the show because I wasn't backing Cruz, wasn't backing Rubio, who a lot of our audience thought I should back. I said, no, it's Trump. And this coming from a guy in the previous years, Trump had talked about running for president. I was, no. And then in 2015, yes, that's what we need. So I say that for a little bit of context. Here's why this talk, and people said movie 2,000 Mules, and I haven't seen it. And I know one of the big things they're hanging their hat on, and not geocaching, but all these cell phones pinged right by these locations. Listen, there's a place I like to go at noontime every day to make sure I stay sober. You know what that place is right next to? The dive bar. Somebody could ping my cell phone and go, my God, he's going to the dive bar every day at noon. And I'm not, but I'm right next to it.
Isn't it also really close to like a store?
An adult toy store.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
So somebody could ping my cell phone every single day. Look, he's going by those ballot boxes more than once. What's going on? Look at Branden every day at noon. He's at that adult toy store and then the dive bar. And we don't know necessarily if it's in that order. He might be going to the dive bar first and then over to the toy store. So that's what they're hanging their hat on a lot, from what I understand from people who have seen the movie. My dad says you got to watch it, and I keep telling him. He gets mad at me. I said, Dad, I'm going to watch it right after I watch Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11, and I wish they could prove there was fraud to overturn the election. There has been absolutely, positively nothing factual that has said there was fraud committed to overturn the election. Trump-appointed judges all across the country have said there is nothing there. And here's why I get frustrated when people talk about it.
Not that there is nothing there.
Nothing to overturn the election.
Yeah, there are a lot of cases of actual fraud and people violating election laws, but it's not enough. It was never proven enough to be something that would change the outcome.
Heritage Foundation, we did extensive work. When I say we did extensive work, I did a lot of reading on the Heritage Foundation, but they detailed over the years election fraud in other states, including fraud in Missouri, and a lot of it was actually happening in Columbia, not in the 2020 specifically, but over the years. But here's why I don't know. We're going to get into this with some of these primary races in the Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell just a few minutes from now. But here's why I say I wish they'd quit talking about the perceived election fraud. Two reasons. Number one, there's nothing that has been able to have been proven. The other thing, I think about the politically homeless voters, the independents, the in-betweeners, and if that's what somebody is running, well, there was fraud in the 2020. You know what? I'm guessing you're losing that middle-of-the-road voter. You are losing that potential independent. You are losing somebody who says, hey, you know what? I'm tired of these high gas prices. I'm tired of Joe Biden lying like he did yesterday. Oh my God, he was speaking yesterday and talking about the economy. Somebody talking about the economy, and I'm tired of this. I think I want to vote for this guy instead of Joe. Oh wait, that election fraud stuff, that's clown sense, man. I'm not even going there. That's why I fear whenever people talk about the election fraud 2020, Trump should have won. It's not going to help moving forward.
We need people to show up in November. I mean, what we know, like from Georgia and other states, and even the last election, is that voter turnout is higher than it's ever been. And the Democrats are going to show up. And if people feel like their vote doesn't count, a lot, sometimes they will just stay home and not vote. And more voting, regardless of who you're voting for, is better. It's better for our country. Everyone should vote. And we want people to know that when they cast their ballot, it's going to count.
Scott Tex, sorry, Branden, the election was stolen. Trump is right. Send me the proof. I would love to see it, and I hope you are right. Joe Biden yesterday. Gosh, this guy.
The problem is Republicans in Congress are doing everything they can to stop my plans to bring down costs on ordinary families.
It's everybody else's fault. But the guy who is in charge. By the way, something Stephanie covered yesterday in the Morning Bell business news with a little twist that only Stephanie Bell could give you. We were in a bear market. Bears hibernate. Economies, everybody knows how bad things are. January 20, so this is just a few months ago. This is Joe Biden.
The stock market, the last guy's measure of everything, is about 20% higher than it was when my predecessor was there. It has hit record after record after record on my watch.
That was January of 2020. Guess what it's done now on his watch?
Added like 6 more years to the date before which I can retire. It wiped out everything.
Paying a lot at the gas pump, paying for groceries. Here's some comparison. We got to move forward because I want to hear what happened yesterday in some of these primaries across America. Progresso or Campbell's Chunky Soup. I don't pay attention to prices. I'm a bachelor. If I want to buy something, I buy it. I don't pay attention to the price.
Weren't you just whining a couple months ago about the prices of cherub tomatoes?
Yes.
Cherub tomatoes. I pay attention to the prices of cherub tomatoes. Bacon, Campbell's Chunky Soup, and Progresso Soup. Usually it's $1.59, $1.89. Yesterday, $2.59 for a can of soup.
Oh, my gosh.
In the summer. All right, Daily DC Rundown coming up 5 minutes from now. What do you got for us, Steph?
Well, some hope for the Senate for next year.
That's coming up 5 minutes.
An eye on the nation, an eagle eye on mid-Missouri. Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert. 93.9, The Eagle.
They are very, very scared about us beating Senator Catherine Cortez Masto.
That is Adam Laxalt, Nevada. All right, we've been waiting for the Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell. What happened in some of our primaries yesterday?
Adam Laxalt won against a late-stage challenge from Sam Brown. Of course, Laxalt was the Trump candidate in that race, and Masto, who he referenced, is said to be the most endangered Democrat in the evenly divided Senate. So he is giving us some hope for the midterms that he might be able to beat her and we could take over the Senate. In addition, the other Trump candidates did pretty well. Let's see. And it was U.S. Representative Tom Rice of South Carolina actually got ousted. He lost a re-election bid, and he was the one who actually voted to impeach Trump. He had a conservative challenger and lost his race. In addition, Nancy Mace was kind of the same way, had some issues with Trump, but then basically said sorry, and she survived barely. And so, well, I don't know about barely, but anyway, she did survive. So Trump looking pretty good last night, actually.
And it's interesting because still nothing from Trump on the Missouri Senate race. And not sure polling shows that the majority of folks in Missouri saying a Trump endorsement wouldn't matter to them in the Senate primary.
Right, and there's actually a Texas House seat last night flipped. Myra Flores won a special election, and she's just finishing out a term that was vacated, but still that's a pickup for Republicans down in Texas, so really good there. Mitch McConnell also weighed in on the gun bipartisan gun control measure and said, hey, this is something I think I could support. We got to see the legislation, obviously, but that's good news, I think, for those folks who are hoping on some action on guns.
Coming up, hey, remember the SCOTUS leak and the investigation?
What happened to that?
Yeah, exactly. We want to look at that coming up about 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Columbia.
That weather check brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all your cooling needs, log on to airserve.com. It's currently 77 degrees.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. A South Carolina congressman who voted to impeach former President Trump loses his Republican primary.
State House member Russell Fry wrote a Trump endorsement to a win over 7th District Congressman Tom Rice. Congresswoman Nancy Mace beat Trump endorsee Katie Arrington in South Carolina's 1st District GOP primary.
Fox's Gernal Scott. Two El Monte, California police officers responding to a report of a domestic violence stabbing at a motel are shot and killed.
Officers arrived on scene where they confronted the suspect, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. The suspect fled the hotel room into the parking lot, and a second officer-involved shooting occurred.
Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Captain Andrew Meyer there says the suspect was killed in the shootout. One of the officers killed was a 22-year veteran, the other on the job less than a year. America's listening to Fox News.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 6:31 and Robinson saves you time. We are already warming up, as you heard Hannah mention just a moment ago. We're already at 77 degrees here in Columbia, 76 degrees in Jefferson City. It's only going to get warmer. The National Weather Service overnight extending the heat advisory through 8 tomorrow evening. Good morning, and here's some of the stories we are working on at this hour. Parents in the Blair Oak School District turning out last night in Wardsville, and they weighed in on the district's transgender student policy. The board hearing testimony from parents on both sides of the issue. Our news partner, ABC 17's Ben Fine, reports the board will review the current policy at a later date. They'll make some changes at that time. The policy outlines transgender students' use of restrooms, other related topics. Speaking of the heat, earlier we mentioned it, the National Weather Service warning about dangerous heat again today and tomorrow throughout mid-Missouri. They've extended the advisory through 8 tomorrow night. NWS is urging you to wear light-colored clothing today and to avoid strenuous activity. You need to stay hydrated. State officials are also involved in this effort right now. They say air conditioning is the best preventive measure for you to battle the heat and humidity. A Columbia man charged with strangling his wife in 2006 and putting her body in an apartment dumpster will be in court next week for a hearing. He is 40-year-old Keith Comfort and 95 veterans from across Missouri heading to Washington Monday. 63rd Central Missouri Honor Flight. They'll be leaving early Monday morning.
I say to people all the time, how many people get the opportunity to walk hand in hand, elbow to elbow with this much history and this much honor and valor?
At Central Missouri Honor Flight Board President Mary Paulsell, they leave Courtyard by Marriott Monday morning at 2. They return to the hotel that evening sometime between 9:30 and 10 o'clock. News is brought to you this hour by MidAmericaMortgage.us. Our news time is 6:33. In sports, we'll start with the Cardinals. Big games yesterday in the heat and tough. Can't emphasize enough, especially the umpires having to wear all that equipment behind home plate and do that, especially during the day game. That's incredible. But they have to stay hydrated, players as well, and the fans. The Cardinals sweeping a day-night doubleheader with the Pirates on Tuesday at Busch Stadium. They won the first game 3-1. Goldschmidt, a 2-run homer in that first game. The Cardinals winning the nightcap 9-1. Miles Michaelis just one strike away from a no-hitter. He gives up a double with 2 outs in the ninth inning as Harrison Bader almost caught the ball. Comes, according to John Rooney, about a foot away. He dove onto the warning track, just missed it. Michaelis improves to 5-4. St. Louis hosting the Pirates again tonight. First pitch, 6:45 right here on 93.9 The Eagle. If you're heading to the game tonight, it looks like, I'm not seeing anything severe, but it certainly looks like we could see a shower or two, so be prepared for that. San Francisco beat the Royals last night 4-2, Oracle Field. They'll play again today, 2:45. That game will be on ESPN+. Our sports is brought to you this hour by the Better Business Bureau. Businesses can join and sign up for accreditation. Start online, bbb.org. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:34. Traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Visit MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. Our roads are pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. Again, they are working on the I-70 Roachport Bridge. MoDOT contractors are. Until 7 o'clock this morning, they will be out again between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. They'll do that for the rest of the week as they continue to do a lot of work there in the median concrete barriers being put up there on the bridge. So that is tying up traffic a little bit, especially right now, but give yourself some extra time. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
The radio station, 93.9 The Eagle. The show, Wake Up Columbia, with Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah the producer, giving you news, analysis, and opinion.
The yeas are 396, nays are 27, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
Look, unity. The House overwhelmingly voting to strengthen the amount of security afforded to Supreme Court justices. This after supposedly a thought leader, political leader. Over the years in journalism, the New York Times basically completely dismissed the thing regarding Justice Brett Kavanaugh when somebody shows up with guns and all this crazy stuff outside of his house, the New York Times. And if you're a newer listener to the show, the reason why you'll hear us a lot talk about the New York Times, Washington Post, they have generally, up until the past couple of years, they have generally been considered like thought and political leaders for people all across the country. So in other words, it's not just people in Washington, D.C. or New York that reads the New York Times and the Post. Really, people in political circles, people that really follow politics for years have consumed the media content on those. So when you have the New York Times dismissing that story, basically, is what that tells you is, see, that's that huge bias. Because why? Well, because Kavanaugh, Justice, who was appointed, then confirmed he was appointed by a conservative president. Now, you could take, let's say, Kagan, who was appointed by a liberal president. What do you think would happen if the New York Times, if there was a story, somebody showing up outside of Justice Elena Kagan's house with guns and all this stuff? What would happen? What would the New York Times do? Front page. Your cell phone, my phone would be blowing up with news updates. So when people talk about media bias, and I don't like to use the phrase mainstream media because it's somebody else's phrase, been used for years, but the national news outlets, when they talk about bias, that's what they mean. Some, almost in effect by omission, the New York Times not doing much with a Supreme Court justice. He had somebody show up outside of his house with his stuff. That's why we talk about bias in the national news outlets.
Because it's only the MAGA people who are violent and crazy.
Yeah. And to be clear, and I said this last week, any threat like that, against any of the 9 justices, should be front page news. Yeah, it's not even debatable.
It doesn't matter who it is.
It's a very. It doesn't matter if it's Sotomayor or I'll go back to William Rehnquist or whoever it is. I mean that is deeply troubling, especially if you read what he allegedly was trying to do. The suspect.
And here's the other thing that's interesting: SCOTUS leak, Roe v. Wade, supposed opinion, which is supposed to be coming out potentially within a matter of days, because folks been asking us about this. What happened with, what's the latest with the SCOTUS leak investigation? Where did that leak come from? Who leaked that to the press? And it was just a draft opinion. It wasn't an official opinion. In other words, Elena and all the other folks, they're passing this opinion around. Somebody leaked it to the press. Who was it? Was it one of the justices of the Supreme Court? Probably not. Stephanie.
No.
Branden, come on, that's enough. But we haven't heard a whole lot about that investigation. And people are wondering, was because the focus is on January 6th. Don't forget about this leak in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I find it funny that people are mad about the leak, but are also mad that nothing's leaking about the investigation about the leak.
Oh, yeah. Good point, Steph.
That I assume the investigation is proceeding, but that, it's pretty hush-hush, and once, they actually come to some sort of conclusion, it will come out. But I assume everyone in that building is on high alert about leaking anything additional.
And if you're new to the show, that is Stephanie Bell. She is the book smartest person probably in the room. That's Brian Hauswirth. He is our journalist. He is the news director for all of the Zimmer Radio network. Hannah, the producer, is also one of the book smartest people in the room. If I just say smartest, that implies a book smartest, more studied. As a matter of fact, has a degree in agriculture, and that's one of the requirements to be a member of the Wake Up Columbia family. You have to have a degree in agriculture.
I'm just glad I didn't get kicked out after I failed political science.
So, Hannah... I want to introduce you to Hannah, the producer. She failed political science in college. I met her while she was a high school student. She failed political science, got her degree in ag, and has been a part of the Wake Up Columbia family prior to officially being a part of the family before you got to hang out in the sandbox every morning. My name's Branden. Not much to my story. Chuck. 874-9390. Talking about these gas prices, again, every time we go to the pump, and I'm just trying to find, we know gas prices suck. And I imagine all these people at the gas pump, every time they're filling up, what's going through their mind. Not just the political stuff, but real life implications. Okay, yeah, you're paying a lot. I'm paying $100 just to go see my dad for a few hours on the weekend, and I'm grateful that I have the ability to still do that. And there's a lot of people that this is really, really, really hurting. But then you think about the diesel. That's okay. I'm not a truck driver. I don't drive a diesel vehicle. When you're going to the grocery and you're buying your ramen noodles, which the price on those they're more than $1 now. I don't know if anybody knows this or not. Hannah, when you were in college, how much were you paying for ramen noodles? 25 cents?
Yeah, I think you could usually get like 10 for $1.
No, I see. When I go ramen noodles, I go upscale. I don't get the package. I get the one that comes in the styrofoam cup. So all I have to do is pour in the boiling water. I'm upscale when it comes to my ramen noodles.
You really want all those chemicals.
That's right.
Heat up that styrofoam.
The salt and the boiling water in the styrofoam. If I'm gonna go bad, I'm gonna go big here. So you think gas prices? Well, okay, so I don't have diesel. It's not affecting me. Guess who's delivering the ramen noodles to your store? Guess who, by the way, then is delivering the gasoline and the diesel to the gas stations? People that are driving semi-trucks that run on diesel. It's so incredibly circular. Chuck is a truck driver checking in on the show. And Chuck, we were texting 874-9390. You can always reach out and text us. Chuck drives a truck nationwide, listens on the app all the time, which I would highly encourage you to download. The app is free, and if you get a little bit out of the range of 93.9 The Eagle, you can listen to us whenever. Or if we have a bad weather day and the signal is... you can put on the app, 939theeagle.com. Real easy. Chuck uses it nationwide. Let me ask you, where are you today, Chuck?
I am in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Bowling Green, Kentucky, not too far from home. So you were saying that with the diesel prices will specifically affect us here in mid-Missouri, in Columbia. How so?
Well, I'll answer that first with a question. Of all the 18-wheelers you see on 63 and I-70, how many times do you actually see those trucks going through town in Columbia? Not many, right?
Right.
Well, because there's not a whole lot of industry in Columbia. I mean, you have a few places, but compared to most other places, very little. And so, which means that the deliveries you do get are from usually distribution direct store deliveries, which you think, oh, well, that doesn't really affect us because that's local drivers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's guys that drive like me over the road that are taking those loads to D.C. And I am here to tell you that what we're delivering has been cut in half in the last 3 months.
What you're delivering, you mean the weight of goods that you're delivering has been cut in half?
Yeah, you used to get maxed out loads, anywhere from 40 to 46,000 pounds, depending on the weight of your truck. Now you're lucky to get I haven't broke a 30,000 pound load in weeks, but everything's running under 30,000 pounds. And on top of that, you have to think just how much extra fuel cost is incorporated in these less than full loads that we're delivering.
All right. Anything else you can add? How, from your point of view as a truck driver what did you pay for diesel today?
Just filled up about 20, 30 minutes ago, and I paid $5.96. At a place I spent the night at, that when I pulled in yesterday evening, it was $5.76.
I love this. I want to go back to January of 2022. Biden was talking about the record stock market, talking about it keeps going up and up, and he's setting records all the time. But you could say almost the same if you were to take those comments out of context regarding gasoline from just a few months ago from Joe.
It has hit record after record after record on my watch.
Gas prices have hit record after record after record on his watch. We have fact-checked those statements. We have run them through the Ministry of Truth. He's accurate, even when I take those comments out of context, accurate. Chuck, we appreciate you. God bless you, and thank you for what you do for America. By the way, so I want to be clear on this. So yesterday, I don't pay attention to this stuff except for cherub tomatoes and soup. Yesterday, I noticed soup, Campbell's Chunky and the Progresso soup, usually $1.59, $1.89. It's usually what I pay. Yesterday, all of it, both grocery stores I went to, $2.59 for a can of soup. Is that something like that? From what you know, your experience, is that mostly tied into because I'm paying just extra cost for you to deliver it to Mosier's? Is that why?
Yes, and just so people realize that we're not making any more money as drivers. We're not. In fact, we're losing. We're making far less than we did. And the cost for us to live out here on the road for food has doubled, literally. I used to, about $150, I could get enough food to last me 2 weeks, maybe 2.5, 3 if I stretched it. And now it costs me every bit of $300.
Man. Chuck, thank you for the phone call. You be safe out there, and I can't imagine you trying to feed a family of 5.
Yeah, I mean, just the other day we were, my kids love crescent rolls, but they're like, they'll inhale them in 20 seconds, and it's literally just like a piece of bread, right? And my son's like, can I get some crescent rolls? I said, sure. I looked down. What's normally, I think, $2.99 was $4.99 for literally like puffed up dough. And I said, no, we're not paying $4.99 for crescent rolls.
How did little Drew take that news?
He didn't love the idea that he would have to just eat toast.
See, Joe, now you're upsetting kids. You're upsetting little kids, but this is how these things work. That's how these things affect people. That's how they affect you, and I wish I could offer some hope. One of the things we can do today is, we can hang in there. We can grin and bear it, maybe try to laugh a little at some of the things that we do find humorous, and not only hope for big changes coming up in the midterms just a few months from now, but then maybe get active, whether it's going to things like Columbia Pachyderms, whether it's going to whenever a candidate comes to town. Get involved. Start going to these things when these candidates come to town, because you'll meet other people there that are interested enough to show up, and then you start talking to people. I go to John Potter, this parent of kids in the Columbia Public School District, although not necessarily from a political realm, more of an educational realm. This guy, who incidentally is a truck driver, just kind of a humble fellow, he got involved, met other people. People now rally around this guy, and he does some incredible stuff in Jefferson City. Get involved. That's one of the things we can start doing today. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre on CNN, Don Lemon, yesterday. Check out this question from Don Lemon.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
How did she answer that question? You got to hear this. We're going to do that about 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The
Everyone else takes it too seriously. Thank God you get it. This is Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert, 93.9 The Eagle.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
That is CNN's Don Lemon asking White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, does Joe have the stamina to not only make it through his pudding meeting today, but then to run for president again? Wait till you hear how she answered, but I want to respond. Chuck the truck driver called in with some perspective on things. Folks reacting, and what Chuck the truck driver said is a lot of truck drivers are not running at full loads anymore. He said he was slept at a truck stop last night, woke up this morning. Cost of diesel went, I don't remember exactly how many cents, 30 cents or something. He paid almost $6 a gallon for diesel this morning. These truckers, they're not getting more money. So these things are going up. They're delivering less goods. So when you hear about there's going to be grocery shortages, things like that. And I did not think about this. Monty says, yeah, and don't forget the farmer paying more for diesel, but still gets to sell their product at whatever price the market dictates. He is correct there. And Charles says, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. These semis running at lighter loads. When I'm seeing on the highway, I've noticed big rigs passing each other at a much faster pace, probably. I go and see my dad most weekends, so I'm up and down 70 and 40 and 55 and 270. And on that stretch from Wentzville, 70 to here, now that this guy says this via text, now that Charles says that, I'm like, yeah, it seems like a lot of these semis have maybe been going faster. So it's interesting. That's all that stuff works. Welcome into the show. Okay, Don Lemon, CNN, talking to Karine Jean-Pierre. She is the White House press secretary. She gets out there and fronts for the president every day. It's something Jen Psaki used to do, but now she plies her trade at MSNBC. So Don Lemon asks her a question. Do you think the president, because Joe is 78, 79 years old today, and you see him in action. We just highlighted some lies he told just yesterday. He's lying all the time. And I don't know if it's intentional or if he's just losing his mind. He's not been able to surround himself with people that can effectively do anything right, as we've seen since that tragedy of January the 20th of 2021. So Don Lemon fairly asks her, like, hey, you think the president's got the stamina to run for re-election like 2 years from now when he will be in his 80s? Her response to that question.
You're asking me this question. Oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States. You know, I can't even keep up with it. We just got back from New Mexico. We just got back from California. That is not a question that we should be even asking. Just look at the work that he does and look how he's delivering.
So do we need to go on? You get the point.
I mean, there is something interesting here, and I think in the last election cycle, there were so many candidates, and I think people that are around my age, like mid-30s, weren't ready to vote for someone for president who were our age. Like, I can't be the president. I don't want to vote for somebody my age. And I think 100% in the next cycle, you're going to see that pendulum swing the other way and say, you know what? I'm ready. We're ready.
But you can be mayor sometimes at Ashland, right?
You can.
And you can go on and you can do the next thing. Coming up, so you've heard about this devastation in the Yellowstone National Park area, how this is affecting some of our local school kids. That's coming up at 7:10.
Trump cooked rice. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. A Republican congressman who voted to impeach the then president after the Capitol riot voted out in South Carolina. Tom Rice lost to a Trump-backed primary challenger and was cordial, calling Russell Fry.
You're going to make a great congressman, and we'll do anything we can to help you along.
But the former president lost his bid to primary out another GOP South Carolina lawmaker who had been critical of him. Congresswoman Nancy Mace beat her Trump-backed challenger, telling Fox,
"Well, it shows that hard work, honesty, sticking true to your principles and your values, and hustling. We pulled out a win last night. It was decisive by 8 points."
In Texas, Republican Mayra Flores won a special election to become the first Mexican-born congresswoman, taking an open house seat that had been held by a Democrat.
She says in a statement this morning, quote, "I look forward to standing strong for our conservative values of faith, family, and freedom, and to earning the opportunity to serve our community further in the months to come."
Fox's Griff Jenkins. 2 police officers are being mourned in California the day after they were murdered responding to a motel stabbing near L.A.
And believe me, they were loved. These 2 men were loved. They were good men. They paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Interim El Monte Police Chief Ben Lowry, the gunman, was shot and killed by other officers. It's not food and gas and everything else getting more expensive these days. Getting a mortgage or a loan or paying credit card debt will also soon cost us more, with the Federal Reserve ready to take action today.
A slew of troubling inflation reports of late could lead Fed officials to consider surprising markets with a larger than expected 0.75 percentage point interest rate increase.
Fox's Hillary Barsky. We're getting a teeny tiny break at the gas pump after 18 days in a row of records. Regulars down a fraction, but AAA's national average still $5.01 per gallon. President Biden's urging U.S. oil refineries to produce more gas and diesel, claiming their profits have tripled. America's listening to Fox News.
The economy is headed directly for a disaster. The Fed can either raise rates to lower inflation and trigger a stock and housing market crash, or it can keep rates low and potentially cause hyperinflation. That is why you must take action to protect your savings right now. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to diversify your retirement account out of paper assets and into physical gold. The Birch Gold Group IRA is what I recommend to all my family and friends. And today, Birch Gold is giving away a free information kit about how gold IRAs work. To get your free copy, just text the word PROTECT to 989898. It's crucial for you to get this information before an economic disaster is in full swing. Again, text PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free information kit on gold. There's no obligation or purchase required, so do it now. Text PROTECT to 989898. Action, action, action. Use your agency. Take action today.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 7:03 and Robinson's saves you time. We are warming up already here in mid-Missouri. Columbia, it's 78 degrees right now, and we are only going to get hotter today. Our high around 95 in Jefferson City. It's actually 79 and sunny. That heat advisory has now been extended until tomorrow evening. More on the weather here in just a moment. Good morning. I'm Brian Hauswirth here. Some of the stories we are working on for you in this 7 o'clock hour. We begin with the Keith Comfort case, a Columbia man accused of strangling his wife and then placing her body in a dumpster on Amelia Court in 2006. Will be back in court next Tuesday. Boone County prosecutors, you'll recall, charging Comfort with second-degree murder for the death of his wife, Megan Schultz. Columbia police found her remains in the city landfill in 2019 after days of searching. CPD's probable cause statement quotes Comfort as telling Wisconsin police that he and his wife had an argument in 2006 according to him, she swung her arms at him. Comfort is quoted in the documents as saying he took his wife to the ground, strangled her, then placed her body in an apartment dumpster on Amelia. That is near Old Highway 63, not far from the hardware store. The Blair Oaks School Board in Cole County's Wardsville hearing emotional testimony last night from parents on both sides of the district's transgender policy issue.
The Blair Oaks Board in Wardsville will now review policy and possibly make changes after parents spoke out before and against the transgender policy last night. The policy deals with transgender students' use of bathrooms, athletic teams, and other issues. Under the current policy at Wardsville, students who identify as transgender can change their names and pronouns to more closely match their gender identity Once a year, the school district will also designate gender-neutral bathrooms in each building. John Marsh, Zimmer News Network.
In the board hearing, John, thank you. The board hearing about an hour of testimony on the issue last night. It was a packed crowd in Wardsville. The National Weather Service's heat advisory has now been extended through tomorrow evening at 8 across central Missouri. I spoke to the National Weather Service's St. Louis's Alex Elmore today. That extension took place during the overnight hours, so it goes to 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. That includes Columbia, Jefferson City, and Boonville. The heat index will make it feel like anywhere between 100 and, let's say, 103 degrees. Ballpark is what they think right now here in the area, and they are warning the temperature will greatly increase the risk of heat-related illnesses, especially with the longevity of the ongoing heat wave. Now, there is a chance of some rain tonight. NWS St. Louis meteorologist Elmore telling 93.9 The Eagle there's a chance of scattered storms this evening. It could produce some damaging wind gusts as well as some hail. There's also a chance of some rain tomorrow. No other rain in the forecast after that for the next several days. State health officials are urging you to use your air conditioning to stay hydrated, to pace yourself during the heat wave. DHSS Acting Director Paula Nicholson of Fulton says heat and humidity can be a dangerous combination. She's urging you to check on your friends and neighbors, especially the elderly. And she says if you know about a senior citizen or a disabled adult who is in need of assistance due to the heat, you should call Missouri's toll-free abuse and neglect hotline. That phone number, 1-800-392-0210. And final preparations are underway as we speak for the 63rd Central Missouri Honor Flight. It leaves Monday evening, actually Monday very early in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. They'll show up at the Courtyard by Marriott at midnight, have breakfast, and then go out on the bus at 2 o'clock in the morning. Honor Flight Board President Mary Paulsell tells 93.9 The Eagle that 95 veterans from across Missouri will leave the Courtyard by Marriott early, and she says it's an emotional experience.
Not many people in their lifetimes get to walk beside this much history and honor and valor. And it truly has been a life-altering experience for us, as we hope it is for them.
There'll be about 300 to 500 bikers who will escort them back once they get to the Kingdom City exit on Monday evening. They'll return home to a hero's welcome Monday evening here in Columbia between 9:30 and 10 at the Courtyard by Marriott on Lamone Industrial Drive. Our news brought to you by the Candy Factory, thecandyfactoryonline.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time is 7:07. In sports, Cardinals sweeping a day-night doubleheader with the Pirates Tuesday at Busch Stadium. They win the first game 3-1, second game 9-1. Big story in that second game, Miles Michaelis just a strike away from a no-hitter. Gives up a double, 2 outs in the ninth inning. Harrison Bader was playing in, went back, and he dove on the warning track. Came about a foot away from catching the ball, but it bounces onto the warning track, goes over the wall. Ground rule double. Michaelis, by the way, improving to 5-4. St. Louis hosting the Pirates again tonight. First pitch, 6:45, 93.9 The Eagle, as Michaelis finishes with a one-hitter in the game. San Francisco beating the Royals last night 4-2. They'll play today, 2:45, Oracle Park. That'll be a day game in San Francisco on ESPN+. Our sports is brought to you this hour by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning in mid-Missouri. Our news time is 7:08. All right, Nate, thank you. Great work on television this morning with Megan Drakus. We appreciate you. It is right now sunny, 78. Weather brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning. 7:09 traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies looking for local people. Roads are pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri this morning. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes and breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. The pitch to Mitchell. A swing and a fly ball center field. Moving back on it, Bader. The ball's over his head and bounces over the wall. And there's the first hit in the game for the Pirates as Michaelis was 1 strike away from the no-no.
Well, not only 1 out away, he was 1 strike away. Miles Michaelis. That's how this went down last night on 93.9 The Eagle. You can catch Cardinals baseball all year long. Kind of breaks your heart. We've had a couple of no-hitters over the past 2000. I think it's been over 20 years since Cardinal pitchers pitched a no-hitter.
Bud Smith was the last one, September 3rd, 2001. And, Derek Gould, I believe it was Derek, wrote a story maybe 2 years ago, and he looked back on Cardinal pitchers who have thrown no-hitters, and they interviewed Smith. They interviewed, I believe it's pronounced Jose Jimenez. I'm going from memory. He didn't play long. Ray Washburn. And then there's others.
Bob Forsch threw a couple back in my day.
He did, absolutely. 78 and 83. Of course, Bob's passed away, but they actually interviewed a couple of the people that are living, and what they talked about in that article a couple of years ago was what you brought up, Brandon, in the 6 o'clock hour, and that is the tension in the 9th inning, how difficult. It's just amazing. Right. And just basically Bader came within a foot, if that, of catching that ball.
You hear the cheering and everything. You had, I don't know what the attendance was last night, second part of a day-night doubleheader, and it was hot, so I don't know. I'm still going to guess at least 30,000 people in that ballpark on their feet applauding 1 strike, and there's a deep drive center field, and Harrison Bader, who is just made a tremendous effort to try to catch the ball. Cardinals wins. The story actually making national news, and you know what that's like, man, whenever you work really, really hard for something. Because a lot of us, and I don't mean to brag on any of us here, but I'm going to applaud the folks I get to hang out with every morning, because we know what it's like to work really hard for something and succeed, whether it's a degree in law, by the way, not just the law that Stephanie Bell does, like, it's real smart stuff. That's the only way I know how to put it. And you working hard and getting something like whether you're getting awards from the Missouri State Broadcasters Association, Hannah working hard to get her degree at Mizzou. You know what it's like to work hard and succeed, but to work hard and fail, But ultimately, it's a no-hitter. It's a personal accomplishment. Cardinals first place, NL Central, Paul Goldschmidt, monster day yesterday. I think he hit 3 home runs between the 2 games.
That's amazing.
Just an incredible day. Cardinals first place, NL Central. Glad you could be here. Yellowstone. If anybody's ever been to Yellowstone, you know the beauty that is America's very first national park. It sits on the biggest active volcano, I think, on the planet. It's America's first national park. I used to live out there, so I'd go all the time. I was here just 2 years ago with the grandkids. Stephanie.
I was there on January 6th. Yeah. And if you want to have nightmares, you should go to Yellowstone. Honestly, I mean, I like watching the earth bubble up like real life, the floor is lava, will give you some nightmares. And our guide was just like, we're way past due for some activity, and it was stunningly beautiful and a wonderful trip, but it's so sad watching what's happening. And I think a lot of people are like my husband. We were talking about it and saw the pictures. And he's like, it's such a massive place. He's like, well, that's just like one road. But apparently the whole place is shut down.
Yeah, so they've shut down all the entrances into the park. So the park is not under water, but they've shut down all the entrances because you've got roads falling apart. You've seen the video of the homes falling into the water. Places where water has never been before. But I will always say this, you're never really, really going to beat Mother Nature. Whether you build a dam and it fails, whether you're telling a 17-year-old to practice abstinence, you can't. For real, it's Mother Nature. It's Mother Nature. Listen,
it's just the line between point A and point B.
Sometimes it's a really short line. But really, it comes to Mother Nature. And I'll go back. I remember back in the 80s, they were trying to, let's hand out condoms in school. That'll cut down on pregnancy. We'll preach abstinence, and you can't beat Mother Nature. You're not going to tell a randy 16-year-old, hey, don't do that. And they're going to go, oh, Okay, you know why? Because Mother Nature wins. You build homes in places that's prone to what Mother Nature does. Sometimes Mother Nature floods land. Usually you're going to lose against Mother Nature. But some local kids, I know there's some local CPS students, they used to go on a trip every year, and apparently some kids were supposed to go this year, but the flooding has shut down this trip. But the thing is, apparently they were on the way out there, so students, normally they get to explore Yellowstone toward the end of the week, but that's no longer an option. So there's about 700 students that are participating through the 4 weeks of this program, according to reporting from the Missouri. And that bums me out for these kids. You got all these local kids who are on the way out, and then parents here when they're like, oh, how are our kids doing? Because that, again, it's one of those things that I'm guessing if you're a high school student, and you've all year long or however long they've been planning this trip, you're going to see America's first national park, and the beauty, it's stunning, and the wildlife. The only places everybody talks about Yellowstone because it was America's first national park. If you get a chance, I would take Glacier National Park over Yellowstone any day of the week.
The video I saw on, I believe it was Good Morning America, it was looked like a house that was on the edge of I assume it was a river, and it just basically took the house and took it down the river. Very scary. I do remember, you cited that article, I do remember earlier this year, Branden, the Columbia School Board heard it, and they go through these presentations. There are groups that raise money privately and they go all over. And in this case, I remember a number of students were raising money to go out, and a lot of them were raising it on themselves and raising money to go out to there and some other locations as well. So just that's disappointing.
Yeah, my son found out in second grade that there is a trip for a program that he's in to D.C. in eighth grade, and if we're now in fifth grade, but to this day, if you mention the words D.C. anywhere around him, he said, did you know in eighth grade I get to go to D.C.? And so I assume for these kids, it's the same thing, that they've been talking about this trip for years, been looking forward to it, and it's just sad what's happened.
At least it's cooler out there. Is that something? Listen, we're trying to find anything we can to be grateful about because it's going to be hot for the rest of the week. Heat advisory, mid-90s, going to feel like it's over 100 degrees. It's cooler out west.
Well, yeah, and beyond Yellowstone, I mean, you're right. There are a lot of other, like I've been to Utah, I've been out west. There's a lot of other things that you could take a quick detour and see some cool stuff.
874-9390. Let's welcome Jim into Wake Up Columbia. What's up, bud?
Good morning. So I remember my very first spring break. And I want to say it was actually a week in early April. And I'm like, I'm going to go to Yellowstone. And I had a friend that was going to go, canceled on the last minute. Like, I'm going anyways. So beautiful weather out in the Midwest in April. And I get out to, I think it's Gary, Wyoming, probably about 45 miles east of Yellowstone. It's 8 at night. I'm like, how far am I from Yellowstone? And they said, well, about 45 miles. I'm like, okay. He's like, well, you can't get there. I'm like, why not? We're still in winter. There's about 4 feet of snow. Unless you got a snowmobile, you're not getting there. So I'm like, what? I just drove across the country to see Yellowstone. And so, but I did go up and around, and West Yellowstone was open because there's a little grizzly park and a, wolf preserve there. So hopefully the kids can at least make it over to see that.
I hope they can get around there, and that's funny that, you go out there, it's April, spring break at Yellowstone. It's still covered in snow in April. As a matter of fact, going to the Sun Road, now I'm talking Glacier, they're doing well if they get, the going to the Sun Road spans Glacier National Monument, which is further up in Montana, and it crosses the Continental Divide, and there's videos when they have to clear the snow every spring. And if they can get that road open by Memorial Day weekend, it's a pretty good year if they can get it. That's how much snow and how much they get. Jim, thank you for sharing your story. We appreciate you being a part of Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle. Hello, Tina. How are you?
Oh, good morning. How are you, dear? Sir.
Excellent. What can I do for you?
I went to Yellowstone when I was a kid, and with my parents, and it was scrumptious. The grass was green. The trees were beautiful. They had all kinds of wildlife, elk and bear, and you name it, they had it. And I went back in the early 2000s with my mom, and I was so disappointed it wasn't even funny. It's, back years ago they had a fire in Yellowstone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how bad that fire was, but the trees were nothing but posts, and there was no wildlife. It was not green at all. It was really sad, and I was very disappointed. And there's the difference. Right now, unless it's grown back up again, it's nothing to look at.
It's still, Tina, thank you for the phone call. Back in the late 80s, there was some massive fires. And again, that's Mother Nature. That's to an extent. That's what happens. Park is pretty nice, and there's parts of it. Again, it's Stephanie's point. It's a massive park, so it's not like the entire. We think, oh, it's this park, and it's massive. It's a massive place. So there's some just incredible scenery in there. So our hearts goes out to these, and hopefully the kids, these CPS students that are out there, are finding. I would recommend if they can make it up to Glacier. But yeah, man. You're out west. You don't have to go just into Yellowstone. By the way, in the coming days, we're going to be having somebody on from the Missouri Division of Tourism talking about day trips we could take here in Missouri if we're trying to cut down on fuel cost, find something to do. Some good recommendations. Besides, hey, spend a week in St. Louis, go to a ball game, Arch and Zoo, some other things. I think anytime you go to southern part of the state, you get into people call them the Ozark Mountains, but as somebody who's lived out west in the mountains, I call them the hills. But down south, a lot of good trips down south.
Yeah, we just did Innsbruck, and it was a great weekend getaway. There's some other newer state parks that are kind of on my list, and something besides, I've done Branson a lot. I like Branson, but it can get expensive. But there's a lot of other things that I want to ask about.
Coming up, we are going to do What's Hot with Hannah. Just something fun to talk about, diversions and things like that. What do you got for us this morning, Hannah?
It involves a giant teddy bear and a punishment in public.
Oh.
Download the 93.9 The Eagle app and listen to Wake Up Columbia everywhere. It's easy to do. Geez, even Branden figured it out. 93.9 The Eagle.
Wow, it's 7:27. Look at you. Have you ever had to do like a public punishment for losing a bet? I know you've had to buy steak dinners before, but anything like embarrassing that you've had to do? Ugh. Yeah, I hope that never happens. Well, this guy named Chris, he came in very last place in a fantasy football league that him and his friends were participating in. And his punishment was he had to go out to a fancy restaurant and he had to bring a giant stuffed Winnie the Pooh as his date. So he's at a fancy restaurant and he's got Winnie the Pooh sitting next to him. He actually ordered the teddy bear like food. And his buddies were there to photograph the whole thing, of course. At one point, they thought that, the people in the restaurant weren't staring at Chris quite enough. And so they told the waiter that it was Chris's birthday. And so they all came out and sang, which makes people stare at you anyways. And now they're staring because, they're singing to him and he's eating with a giant stuffed Winnie the Pooh bear. Yeah. There's pictures of Chris and his date on the Wake Up Columbia Facebook page if you're interested. Yeah, so we went to Texas Roadhouse last night to celebrate my boyfriend's birthday, which is today, and he did not have to ride the saddle. He lucked out. Oh. No.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. South Carolina House Republican Tom Rice voted to impeach President Trump and now loses his primary to State Rep Russell Fry. Nancy Mace survives a Trump-backed challenge to her South Carolina House seat and tells Fox,
It just proved you can have this dream, you can set some goals, you can work hard, and you can achieve it no matter what.
Former State Attorney General Adam Laxalt wins Nevada's Republican Senate primary and faces Democrat incumbent Catherine Cortez Mastro in November. Texas Republican Maya Flores wins a special election to flip a House seat held by a retired Democrat. The Federal Reserve is expected to announce another interest rate hike today.
A slew of troubling inflation reports of late could lead Fed officials to consider a larger than expected 0.75 of a percentage point increase to tame hot inflation. The Fed last raised rates by 0.75 of a percentage point in 1994.
Fox's Hillary Barsky. Stock futures are up ahead of the opening bell on Wall Street. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 7:31 in Robinson Saves You Time. 78 already right now in mid-Missouri, at least in Columbia at 79 degrees in Jefferson City. We're expecting a high today of around 95. The heat index will make it feel like it's 105. Good morning, and here are some of the stories we are working on for you in this 7 o'clock hour. Residents in the Wardsville area packing the Blair Oak School Board at last night's meeting to comment on the district's transgender policy. The board hearing about an hour of public comment, according to our colleague, ABC 17's Marina Diaz, who was at the meeting. This all happens after a letter to the editor was published in the Jefferson City News Tribune that criticized the policy. They heard an hour of testimony last night from both sides of this issue. Each person had 3 minutes to speak. Now, the current policy states, quote, The Board of Education believes that all students are entitled to a quality education in a safe environment. This belief extends to transgender students, that is, students who self-identify with a gender that is different from their biological sex, end of quote. Again, the board taking that issue up at a later date. No decisions as of last night. National Weather Service warning about the dangerous heat again today and tomorrow throughout mid-Missouri. They've extended the heat advisory through 8 o'clock tomorrow night. State health officials are recommending you use your air conditioning, that's the best preventive measure for you to battle the heat and humidity. A Columbia man who is charged with strangling his wife in 2006 and putting her body in an apartment dumpster will be in court next week for a hearing. 40-year-old Keith Comfort charged with second-degree murder for the death of his wife, Megan Schultz. They lived on Amelia, which is south of the business loop here in Columbia. And 95 veterans from across Missouri are going to be heading to Washington early Monday morning for the 63rd Central Missouri Honor Flight. They'll visit numerous memorials as well as Arlington National Cemetery, most of those Vietnam and Vietnam-era veterans. News brought to you by Willett Dental Associates. Our news time, 7:33. In sports, the Cardinals sweeping a day-night doubleheader with the Pirates on Tuesday at Busch Stadium. They won the first game 3-1. Goldschmidt had a 2-run homer in the game. He had a big day yesterday, both in the first and the second game. But that was the big, really big hit there for the Cardinals, that home run. That was the difference in the game early, 3-1 in the day game. Now, in the night game, the story there was Miles Michaelis, one pitch away from a no-hitter. Cardinals haven't had a no-hitter since Bud Smith, 2001. This one was really close. Very good pitch, but a Pirate player hits basically a ground rule double. Harrison Bader playing a little bit in. He went back to the track and dove for the ball, but it goes just maybe a foot, if that, over his glove, and that ends up with a one-hitter there. Miles Michaelis improving now to 5-4. St. Louis Pirates again tonight. First pitch 6:45 right here on 93.9 The Eagle. San Francisco beat the Royals last night 4-2. They'll play today 2:45 Oracle Park in San Francisco, and that game will be on ESPN+. Sports is brought to you this hour by Atterbury Auction and Realty Company. Our news time is 7:34. Traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job or post your job opening today. The roads have been pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. Scanner has been quiet in the newsroom compared to yesterday, where it literally was nonstop. It was a very busy day. Quiet today. We hope that continues. The road work will continue on the Rocheport Bridge. They'll shut down one lane westbound on the bridge tonight, starting at 7 o'clock again for the rest of this week as they do concrete barrier work there in the median. If you want to report a traffic issue, call or text us 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes and breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
The radio station, 93.9 The Eagle. The show, Wake Up Columbia, with Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah the producer, giving you news, analysis, and opinion.
We have procedures and policies in place to keep kids safe, keep our people safe, and are always looking at ways to improve that. And I don't think that 700 cell phones in the high school is going to make it safer.
It's Moberly Superintendent Dustin Fanning talking to KOMU Channel 8. They put a ring on it yesterday. We talked a couple of weeks ago. There was, hey, we're going to ban these phones in the upcoming cell phones from kids in the school year. So they ban them from, I think, the high school and middle school. So the grade schoolers, they still get to bring the cell phones to school? Is that how that works? How old were you when you, because I remember my son, who's 29 now, I remember by the time he got to second grade, however many years ago that was, he started asking about cell phones. And I remember this because me and his mom were like, are you crazy? A phone in school? And it seems like it's kind of commonplace now.
Yeah, my kid is going to go into 5th grade, and he does not have a phone yet. But there are folks.
Has he been asking?
He's asked. He has an iPad, which we don't let him take to school, but it does a lot of what a phone would do. But I'm not ready for him to have a phone.
That's because that's almost like, so remember when at least, in Brian Hauswirth's day, you had some levels of freedom and independence. You know, it got to be okay when you're 12, you could stay at home alone without the mom and dad. And then when you're 16, you could drive. So you start to get these little levels of independence and more freedom. You get to flex your wings a little bit and see how this freedom is. But now with the phones, that's another level kind of, I think, of freedom. Whereas a kid, you get now some freedom. I have a phone. I can call and do as I please.
That story got a lot of attention, by the way, in Moberly about that. I think the biggest complaint from people that the biggest complaint I've heard from people that basically support the policy the board is going on. In other words, they don't want the phones. They're saying a lot of the children are on the phones and they're not paying attention. Now, on the other hand, others are saying that what if there's an emergency? So that's been out there, but we'll see what happens. We'll see if any other school districts go along with that. I covered for 3 years. I covered the Moberly School Board for 3 years, and very, very, I can tell you, maybe 1 or 2 times a television station would be there. There was usually me in the paper when I was working up there. But in this case, it got a lot of attention. I think it attracts interest clearly from people.
Well, and I think earlier, Branden, you said you can't beat Mother Nature. And, taking kids' phones away is not going to make them pay attention to whatever their math teacher is saying. In my day, we did not have a lot of phones in math class or at school. So we had those fancy calculators like the TI-83, and somebody had built games on them. So you could play you could play Snake, and there was this Drug Wars game, and I think Oregon Trail, and it was just, the little pixelated stuff. But kids are going to, you're going to take away their phone. They're going to find ways to entertain themselves instead of pay attention in class.
And that, when I was in school, it was always, hey, whoever's next to you, you always find other things to, plenty of things to do. Of course, there might be a lot of parents nowadays don't want their kids to pay attention to what's happening in some of these schools. Matter of fact, impassioned hearings yesterday, Blair Oaks School.
Yeah, Ben Fine did a fine job on this, and our own John Marsh as well. I think it's important to note on the Wardsville situation, the board, they heard an hour of testimony last night, and that's what it is. It's testimony, both supportive and opposed to the current policy. And the board made it clear they were not going to take action last night. They were there to hear people. They said they'd hear an hour. It turned out it was an hour and 3 minutes. Cam Izey, our news partner, actually has the whole video up if people want to look at it. But no decision has been made, and it all was prompted. There was a letter to the editor by Mr. Fork. And Stephanie, you probably know Mr. Fork. I mean, well known in the Cole County area, and he was basically critical of the current board policy. And up until then, the board had said they really hadn't had any complaints about the policy that went into effect in 2020. There's obviously parents on both sides, so we'll see. It sounds like the board may tweak it, but we'll see what happens. It's no decision yet.
And it's definitely the talk of the town. And I have friends who are parents of kids who are at Blair Oaks, and they indicated, I had no idea this policy existed until the letter, but now everyone's talking about it. And I heard last night, I was somewhere before that meeting started, and everyone said, yep, everyone's going to that meeting tonight. People are really interested. And I looked at the policy. It looks like, it was kind of picked up from, I don't know if there's a statewide organization that says, here's our standard policy. But once you kind of read it, it talks some about sports. And I know we've had Misha on talking about, issues with transgender in sports and policies. And so I think, we always talk about getting engaged. And I think, it's important that those parents, who have read it and who were, surprised by the letter and didn't know about the policies that existed in their own school district. I think just waking up and having a voice, I think, is important.
That's what I was going to say, and I wondered, and I don't know anybody personally within the Blair Oaks school, so I don't know, is it something, hey, we're going to pass this policy, we're going to do it quietly, because we know if we make a deal out of it, we know what's going to happen, so we'll pass it, won't be that big of a deal. Some Mr. Fork, who is paying attention, writes a letter to the editor, and we saw what happened.
He was very outspoken. Facebook, and he said it was passed as something called 2115.
Yeah.
Maybe that happened to be a number, and that's what a lot of people apparently didn't know.
And that's another way kids can distract themselves in schools nowadays. And we are getting suggestions on what people used to do to distract themselves in school. So you got the school in Moberly, no more cell phones for the middle schoolers and high schoolers. But before we move on to what you are saying via 874-9390, Washington Post, University of Maryland poll, 58% of respondents said transgender women shouldn't be allowed to participate in. And see, the questions on this, I think transgender chicks should be allowed to participate in professional sports. If you are good enough, I don't care what gender you are, what gender you think you are, if you're good enough to participate in professional sports, you absolutely should be able to. But when it comes to high school and college, again, majority of Americans in this polling saying, no, transgenders shouldn't be allowed to compete in high school sports. Simply not fair. We're talking about ways in schools. What was it you did to distract yourself in school sometimes?
We had like graphing calculators. I think it's a TI-83. I think they're probably up to like TI-120 now. But anyway, they put weird games on there. There was like a snake game, and I don't recall. I mean, we also like spelled out funny things with numbers.
Yes.
You know,
like
those
you could
kinds of
spell,
things.
what was it? You could take...
Let's not repeat it.
4377 or something like that. Hannah, how did you distract yourself in school? Yeah, 4377, turn the calculator upside down and...
I mean, I almost always had phones. I got a phone in like 4th grade, I think. My first phone was a slider phone that, it slid to the side and had the full keyboard.
Ooh.
I thought I was so cool.
Yep.
But no, I got it in 4th grade. I was probably one of the first of my friends to get one.
Ooh.
Yeah, it sounds nice until you realize I got one because my parents got divorced.
Oh, God.
Well, okay, my parents got it for me so that I could keep in touch, with the other parent.
I will say I've noticed that, like, I would say some of the people that I know in younger grades that had phones, that was part of it, so they could keep track and talk to their kid. And I think, gives people options.
Anyway, speaking of keeping track of people, I can't wait till 8:10. These Apple, are they AirPods?
AirTags.
AirTags.
Oh, good Lord.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, they say you must think they're real phenomenal.
I can't even pronounce them.
You're trying to get away from this text because it's offending you, right? Are you triggered by being called old? Because Eric texted in and said, Branden, I'm pretty sure you are of the paper football age.
Yes! Yes! Who has never played
done like this
paper football? You take the paper, and I don't even. But you folded, Hannah. Are you familiar with this? Okay, you filled up the thing into the paper into a football, and then you would play, and then Stephanie would sit across from me in class, and then I'd flick the thing, and if it went through, I scored points, and then we had a fantasy league for our paper football league. No, I didn't.
But we had those. What are those called, Hannah? The fortune teller things that you folded up with paper and you.
Yeah, I think fortune tellers.
Yeah, and
yeah, that was just for the chicks. Dudes didn't do that, but it was a thing. Pick a number 1 through 4, and you pick 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So back to the point of cell phones in schools in Moberly in Randolph County. There's always ways to distract yourself. Paper football, the whatever we called the fortune teller thingy.
Mm-hmm. We used to also play a game called MASH, Stephanie.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And what was MASH?
It's hard to explain. You, write on one side, what kind of a house you're going to live in, who you're going to marry on the other side, and, how many kids you're going to have or something.
We played that, too, but it was who would you kiss or marry? No, it's not like that?
I mean, I guess it's kind of like that.
It's close to that.
Yeah, you, cross things off until you get, the name of the person you're going to marry, how many kids you're going to have, what kind of house you're going to live in. It was pretty serious.
We had a version, but it was who would you kiss, who would you marry? Kind of like that.
It's kill.
That's not the way we played it. 874-9390. Timothy, what's up, buddy?
Oh, these youngins don't know nothing. They think they're first of everything. I was the first one in my family to wear shoes.
All right. Thank you, man. Always good hearing from you, man. Steve text, #Team Paper Football. Absolutely. I would love to see a fantasy football league for paper football. Ways that kids distract themselves in schools today. School districts trying to do. And they're bringing in a lot of these school districts. And then they bring in their own distractions. I love this. Spitwad shooters from mechanical pencils.
Ugh.
That was probably the best. You take your pen apart. You ever done that? And you put, oh my goodness, 874-9390. Daphne, what's up?
Well, I'm probably a lot older than most all of you, but we had the best distraction ever in the little rural school that I went to. We had a foreign exchange teacher from India, and the front of our school was all glass. And from one end of the school to the other was a quarter mile. And everybody that had cars and skipped school, they would come and run their car through the quarter. And we told our foreign exchange teacher that it was a custom in our culture that when somebody was doing this, we had to stop class and watch them. And so in the middle of class, someone would pull their car up in front of the school, and they would get ready to run it through the quarter, and we'd say, oh, we have to stop. That's part of the culture. And so we would stop the whole class. Now, this is in an algebra class, so I was a non-traditional student when I finally went to college, and I thought all the time I was struggling through algebra, I thought somewhere over in India is an 80-year-old guy just really laughing because this stuff is hard. But,
Daphne, I would have loved to hang out with you back in the day. I think we would have had some good times together and probably gotten in trouble. Daphne, have a great day. Thanks for being a part of Wake Up Columbia here on 93.9 The Eagle. Kyle, so today's school distractions, transgender stuff, no cell phones in the schools. These are the distractions kids are dealing with in school today, and it's not always their distractions. It's created by school officials. What did we do back in the day, Kyle?
Well, I don't know if you did, but those little tech decks, those little skateboard tech decks, I used to bounce that thing around all over my desk when I was in school.
Oh, yeah, so it's kind of maybe not comparable to a gadget. Yeah, it was a little skateboard that you did with your fingers. And yeah, I do remember those. Kyle, thank you for that blast from the past. I love it. So here's one of the big things that's happening today. It's going to affect you. It's going to be hot, mid-90s, heat indices well above that. One of the things people are really talking about, ways to distract yourselves in school. More of those coming up 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle. Good morning. There's still a few potholes out there. And I know road crews, whether it's county crews, whether it's MoDOT, be doing the best, try to fill them up. Could be a good time to go into Gap's Automotive Repair Shop. Say, hey, before we start to do any kind of summertime travel, can you just kind of check, make sure I'm good? Because especially when it comes to suspension, things like that, a lot of those problems, we don't know there's a problem until there's a problem to the point it's really affecting things. But you can get a pothole inspection at Gap's Automotive Repair Shop and probably a really, really good time right now to get your AC checked on. Because again, and that's what I try, we get frustrated when something goes wrong, when the car breaks down, when the AC doesn't work. That's why we try to maintain that stuff so that we don't get to the point where it breaks down and causes bigger problems. That's one of the things that I've enjoyed about my relationship with Gap's Automotive Repair Shop over the years. Gap's Automotive Repair Shop, Vandiver in Columbia, and they're in Boonville too.
Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert. It's what happens when you let emotionally unbalanced people play in a room full of microphones. 93.9 The Eagle.
It was an exciting night, but it just proved you can have this dream, you can set some goals, you can work hard, and you can achieve it no matter what.
Nancy Mace, South Carolina, one of the big primary winners. Not really a surprise. Probably the bigger thing with her is that she beats the Trump-backed candidate in that race. Laxalt, who was Trump-backed in Nevada, he's moving forward.
Yep, and he's supposedly going to bring us a majority in the Senate. I mean, they think that he is the best one, most likely to flip a seat.
As we talk about school distractions, I love this because we're talking about Moberly, and we knew this was coming, but they put a ring on it yesterday. No more cell phones in Moberly high schools, middle schools. Distractions, man. There's always a distraction, whether it's a cell phone, whether it's whatever it is, there's always a distraction. Before we move forward on that, I want to say hello to young Brooklyn Elliott. Told by a friend of the Zimmer family that if we mentioned Brooklyn Elliott on the air, she will flip out and will be distracted all day long. I love this. Did anybody, so we're talking about distractions now. It's cell phones and all that. There was another game that we used to play, and it was pencils. I don't know. Okay, see, if you were watching on our YouTube channel, you'll see that everybody in the room is looking at me like, what the heck are you talking about? And you can watch. Go to our YouTube channel, 93.9 The Eagle. You get inside info. Pretty cool. But what you did is you had a pencil, and you would hold your pencil like this.
Okay.
So you would take your two hands and just hold it with two hands. And then the other dude, because chicks didn't play this game, they were playing the game with the fortune teller stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you would take your pencil, and it had to be a number 2 pencil.
Okay.
None of these number 4s and 1.5s, and you'd go
like a karate chop type thing.
Yeah, and you would.
You just broke your pen.
I just broke my.
Oh no, not your pen. That's like your pride and joy.
I feel like I remember seeing that game.
I immediately regret the decision to play this out on YouTube,
Steph, I don't know if you fully understand the love that he has for that pen.
I know. Anytime he drops it, it's like we have to take 3 minutes to find it before he can gather himself.
Yeah, and if he ever misplaces it, he starts pointing fingers real fast.
First thing, I have a multicolored pen. It's got the multicolors, and I've had this particular one.
Like the one you would use in like kindergarten.
Yes, I still have it. That was my distraction in school in kindergarten. Look, I got this multicolored. And you would take the distraction was you take the cap off, and you could write in all 4 colors at the same time. That was our big distraction. But
what a nerd.
That makes me think of like the spirograph or whatever.
But yeah, that was the big distraction. And if I misplace this thing, what's the first thing? Hannah, did you take my pen?
Yeah, and it's usually like in your hand or in your pocket or something.
Hey, moving on, kind of in the vein of technology, but Apple AirTags. What are they good for? What are they bad for? It's coming up about 8:10. Pretty interesting stuff there.
He wants refiners to pump more gas. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. President Biden, in a letter to U.S. refiners, AP reports, is calling on them to make more gasoline, which is down slightly this morning in its price, and diesel, which is at a new record high. The day after he said,
I'm doing everything in my power to blunt Putin's gas price hike. Just since he invaded Ukraine, it's gone up $1.74 a gallon.
And he claims at the same time refiners' profits have tripled, but Republicans like Congressman Dusty Johnson blame the president's energy policies and regulations for the surging price at the pump.
These gas prices are insane. It is clearly, it puts upward pressure on inflation.
And all that inflation has us buying less. Retail sales dropped 0.3% in May from April. With inflation at 40-year highs, the Federal Reserve expected to inflate interest rates. Some economists expect a 0.75% increase today.
When the Fed raises the cost of borrowing, it slows down consumer and corporate spending. That can trigger a recession, but history has shown that sometimes it's necessary when inflation gets too hot, like it is now.
Fox Business Network's Jackie DeAngelis, a House Republican targeted by former President Trump, primaried out in South Carolina. Tom Rice easily defeated by GOP challenger Russell Fry.
Trump had made it very clear that he was eager to see Rice out of office. This could easily be considered a big win for the former president. He has been an outspoken critic of Rice because Rice has been an outspoken critic of him and also voted to impeach him back in early 2021.
Fox's Mark Meredith in Charleston. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who was also critical of the former president, beat her Trump-backed primary challenger. In Texas, a Republican flips what had been a Democratic House seat. Myra Taylor won a special election, will be the first Mexican-born congresswoman. In California, 2 police officers are being mourned. They were killed in a shootout responding to a stabbing at a motel. The gunman was also killed in El Monte. America's listening to Fox News.
The economy is headed directly for a disaster. The Fed can either raise rates to lower inflation and trigger a stock and housing market crash, or it can keep rates low and potentially cause hyperinflation. That is why you must take action to protect your savings right now. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to diversify your retirement account out of paper assets and into physical gold. The Birch Gold Group IRA is what I recommend to all my family and friends. And today, Birch Gold is giving away a free information kit about how gold IRAs work. To get your free copy, just text the word PROTECT to 989898. It's crucial for you to get this information before an economic disaster is in full swing. Again, text PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free information kit on gold. There's no obligation or purchase required, so do it now. Text PROTECT to 989898. Action, action, action. Use your agency. Take action today.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. 8:03 is our time. 80 degrees already here in Columbia. It's going to be a warm one. We're going to see a high today of 95. It'll feel like at least 100. Make sure you stay hydrated. More on the weather and the heat advisory here in just a moment. Good morning. I'm Brian Hauswirth. We begin with an update on a traffic situation. Columbia Police are currently working a multi-vehicle collision at Brown Station Road near Waco. That's a heavily traveled area, especially this time of the morning. A lot of folks use that to get to work at some of the factories in that area. Boone County Joint Communications telling 93.9 The Eagle the road is blocked and avoid the area. Now, one of our listeners is saying that one of the vehicles has flipped over. Again, this area is Brown Station Road near Waco. This wreck has happened within the last 35 to 40 minutes. It is still blocked. Authorities on scene can avoid the area if at all possible. If you have more information on what you're seeing and you're in a safe location, certainly you can give us a call or a text 874-9390. In other news, a Columbia man who was charged with strangling his wife in 2006 and then putting her body in an apartment dumpster will be in court next week for a hearing.
40-year-old Keith Comfort, who has ties to Wisconsin, is charged with second-degree murder for the 2006 death of his wife, Megan Schultz. They lived on Amelia, south of the business loop. Columbia police found Megan's remains in 2019 after searching the city's 100-acre landfill for days. Comfort's trial was originally set to begin this spring, but was delayed to give Boone County prosecutors time to conduct a psychological evaluation. Don Luzader, Zimmer News Network.
All right, Don, thank you. Meantime, parents in the Blair Oak School District turning out on Tuesday evening. They weigh in on the district's transgender student policy. The board hearing testimony from parents for about an hour on both sides of the issue. Our news partner, ABC 17, reports the board will review the current policy at a later date and make some changes. The policy outlines transgender students' use of restrooms, participation on athletic teams, other related topics. National Weather Service's heat advisory now extended through tomorrow evening at 8 across mid-Missouri. The NWS says the heat index will feel like 100 today, at least in Columbia, Jefferson City, and Boonville. National Weather Service St. Louis meteorologist Alex Elmore also tells 93.9 The Eagle there is a chance of scattered storms this evening that could produce some damaging wind gusts. It's possible we won't get any rain at all. It just depends on the system. There's also a chance of some rain tomorrow, but no really chance of any rain after that for the next several days. State health officials are also urging you to use air conditioning to stay hydrated and to pace yourself during the heat wave. State Department of Health and Senior Services Acting Director Paula Nicholson of Fulton says heat and humidity can be a dangerous combination. She's urging you to check on your friends and neighbors, especially the elderly. Final preparations are underway. The 63rd Central Missouri Honor Flight will be leaving Columbia early Monday morning, about 2 in the morning. Honor Flight Board President Mary Paulsell tells 93.9 The Eagle that 95 veterans from across the state will be leaving Columbia's Courtyard by Marriott Monday morning at 2. She says it's an emotional experience.
Not many people in their lifetimes get to walk beside this much history and honor and valor, and it truly has been a life-altering experience for us, as we hope it is for them.
Most of the 95 veterans are from the Vietnam era. They'll return home to a hero's welcome Monday evening between 9:30 and 10 at the Courtyard by Marriott. And Missouri's GOP Attorney General describes freedom of speech as the very bedrock of this great nation. He says it must be protected and preserved. Attorney General Eric Schmidt has filed a motion for a preliminary injunction in his lawsuit against President Biden and others. Now, that lawsuit alleges that President Biden has colluded with companies like Twitter and YouTube to suppress free speech. Mr. Schmidt is seeking Missouri's GOP U.S. Senate nomination. 93.9 The Eagle News is brought to you this morning by the Callaway Bank. They're with you for the moments that matter. 93.9 The Eagle News time is 8:07. In sports, Cardinals sweeping a day-night doubleheader with the Pirates on Tuesday at Busch Stadium. They won the first game 3-1. Goldschmidt hit a 2-run homer in the game. The Cardinals win the nightcap 9-1. Miles Michaelis a strike away from a no-hitter, giving up a double. 2 outs in the ninth inning. He's now 5-4. Cardinals and the Pirates again tonight. First pitch 6:45 right here on 93.9 The Eagle. San Francisco beat the Royals last night 4-2. They play today 2:45 at Oracle Park in San Francisco. 93.9 The Eagle Sports is brought to you this hour by Air Serve Heating and Air Conditioning. 93.9 The Eagle News time is 8:08. All right, Nate, thank you. Right now, our weather is, by the way, it's brought to you by Air Serve Heating and Air Conditioning. It's sunny, 81. Heat index, by the way, makes it feel like it's 84 degrees. It's 8:08 in the morning. Traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people, midmohires.com. Again, Columbia Police are on scene right now. Multi-vehicle collision, Brown Station Road near Waco. One of our listeners is saying one of the vehicles has flipped over. Now, I've not been able to confirm that, but the dispatchers do tell me the road is blocked. Avoid that area, Brown Station Road near Waco, and no reports at this point of any injuries at this time. Another update, 8:31, breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
2 balls, 2 strikes. 2 outs. The pitch to Mitchell. A swing and a fly ball center field. Moving back on it, Bader. The ball's over his head and bounces over the wall. And there's the first hit in the game for the Pirates as Michaelis was 1 strike away from the no-no.
Man, what a bummer for the Cardinals last. Well, they went. Listen, they take 2 games. Paul Goldschmidt, monster day. I think 3 home runs between the 2 games. It was just a great day for the Cardinals. 1 strike away from a no-hitter story at national headlines all across America this morning. And that went down last night, right? It was so exciting to listen to. It was a little bit after 9 o'clock. I'm like, oh, this isn't too late. It's all about listening to Cardinals baseball, especially when they're in first place, man. It's incredible on 93.9 The Eagle.
Agree. And again, he paints the picture there with that soundbite, or that call, if you will, about Bader going back, and even though you can't see it, you just kind of see it in your head, and he does a great job at that. Richmond, Missouri is where he grew up. And,
Miles Michaelis, by the way, he's got the sweetest mustache all of Major League Baseball. Yes. Have you seen this yet?
No.
You should GTS it, man. Him and his the Miles Michaelis mustache. Welcome into the show.
Mustaches are making a comeback, but not because of that guy. Because of, is it Miles Teller, the guy on Top Gun, yep. Maverick? And so apparently it's mullets and now mustaches.
You know what I think would be awesome, Hauswirth?
What's that?
We should have a mustache growing contest. I'll take that as a no.
I don't think I'd do well with that.
I wouldn't.
You'd beat me.
No, I can't. My kids say, grow a beard. My kid has one of these beards he takes care of. And I can't. I get to a certain point because my hair, it doesn't grow down off my face. It grows out. Welcome into the show. Glad you could be here. Man, we're just a little over a week away from our annual 93.9 The Eagle Central Missouri Honor Flight Radiothon with Diamond Pet Food. So excited about this. Hemi Construction, Midmo Telecom, Living Canvas helping us out. And cool way that you can get an official limited edition Central Missouri Honor Flight Radiothon t-shirt thanks to Extreme Body and Paint. Go to our website for more info on there. Before we move on, I'm talking about these Apple AirTag things. We got to talk about distractions in the school. Moberly School District made it official, saying, there's not going to be any more cell phones. And as parents, I don't know how you feel about that. The thing with it's a distraction, I agree with Stephanie. Listen, there's always going to be a distraction. Timing, too, seriously, is kind of weird when you talk about, what just happened at the school in Texas and how many of those calls were coming from kids with cell phones. I think it's incredibly odd, and I think you can't ignore the optics on that at all. But they've made their decision, and I guess, like in most school boards, they're serving the will of the parents and the people who put them there in office. But we were talking about distractions back in our day, from the paper football game to the pencil game to the what was it that the girls did? Who would you marry? Who do you think you're going to marry? MASH. And a couple of dudes have brought up the game Knuckles. And so the way I remember it was you put your hands out like you're doing the slap game with your hands, but you did Knuckles. And so you put your knuckles together
and some people call it bloody knuckles. One of our friends said it had something, you put a quarter down and tried to slide a quarter across the table. I don't remember.
I can't get my head around that, and I don't recall. So if you've got a better description of what that was, 874-9390. Apple AirTags.
So another thing that the boys did in middle school and elementary school, they would erase their skin with a pencil eraser.
Ew.
Yeah, I seem to recall that. It's amazing. The memories that come rushing back when we talk about the idiotic things that we did as kids. These Apple AirTags. Stephanie was kind of telling me about these yesterday. I'm like, hey, do you know what an Apple AirPad is? She says, no, but I know what an Apple AirTag is.
That's embarrassing.
But I'm used to it. I embarrass myself all the time, and I find the more and more I do it, it's not so embarrassing anymore. But apparently a lot of great uses, a lot of great things. So it's a little device. What is it, like the size of a quarter or something?
Yeah, they said coat button. Yeah, it's like a quarter, and you can attach it to different things. So, if you lose your keys a lot, you can put it on your keychain. You can put it on a backpack. People say you could put it on your pet. Could attach it to your kid if you're at Disney World or something, and
like a tracker, like a chip.
It is a chip, and so then on your phone, it allows you to go into your phone and see where that tracker is.
So I'm trying to think of real world applications. Like I would put it onto my I could put it on my reading glasses because I'm always misplaced. If you're ever watching on our YouTube channel, a lot of times you'll see me, and Hannah's got my back on this. I'm going.
Doing the Macarena,
I'm
looking
doing
for
the
him.
Macarena. Where's my and then Hannah will look at me and she'll point, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're on top of my head.
Sometimes when you lose the main pair that you wear, you have to wear these really girly ones.
Got some old cat-eye granny readers that I have to wear. So how would you use them?
One creative way that I have heard is like put it on the back of your remote. Like with kids, we can never find the remotes in our house. I think that was a smart way. But yeah, keys for sure. I lose my keys a lot. But like maybe you could put it in your purse. I don't tend to lose my purse, but keys, remote, for sure. Oh, people put them in their luggage. And so like people who've had bad luggage experiences, there are stories of people who are actually like locating their luggage before the airline even knows where the heck their luggage is.
Yeah, my luggage is in Tulsa. Why did you ship it to Dallas? Well, how do you know it's in Tulsa? I got an Apple AirTag on it. Jack text 874-9390. I have a friend who buys the generic AirTags. When she goes out to party, everyone she is with gets one, so the designated driver can keep track of the people.
Aww.
That's smart.
That's kind of interesting.
That's smart babysitting drunk people.
It's a great idea. But can't you also use it? Let's say you're at a bar, and let's say some dude is, trying to, and I always blame the dudes, not like women don't ever behave badly. But let's say somebody is scamming on somebody and trying to get with them, and they have some very bad intentions.
Yeah, they could drop it in your purse or your pocket or whatever.
And then they can follow you to your house or to your home or to wherever.
Potentially.
Or put it on your car.
There's been TikToks of women finding these AirTags on their car and not knowing how long it was there or who's been following them.
Reports show that AirTags are used increasingly for stalking. For example, one investigation revealed that out of a total of 150 police reports that mentioned AirTags from 8 police departments, there were 50 cases, and this was in the span of less than a year. I think like 8 months, there were 50 cases in which women contacted police because they got notifications that they were being tracked. A high-profile case, a stalker surreptitiously placed an AirTag in a supermodel's coat, tracking her for 5 hours as she went from bar to bar and then later walked home. Recent law enforcement video spells out how criminals attach AirTags to vehicles. 874-9390. Marissa says, my autistic nephew likes to roam, and they keep a tag on him when out and about.
I heard that for older folks, too. It can be a safety measure. And somebody else said, like, life-saving medications, so like EpiPens, anything you might need right away that if it's lost, you'd have a problem. So there are helpful uses, but now you're freaking me out. Now I feel like I need to go outside and look at my car.
Well, is what I'm wondering. Like, let's say you take a job and you're out on a site somewhere. Can a boss say, I insist you wear an AirTag so I can see exactly where you are at all times? Of course, I don't mean to go negative, but because of the way criminals are using these things now, Dale says you can put one of those AirTags on a job trailer, so if it gets stolen...
That's smart.
I like that.
Because that's been that's happened a lot, even here locally recently, people stealing like trailers full of tools and other equipment.
874, it's like an electronic leash, which is good in some situations.
But don't so many, like Hannah, you had that weird app like Life 360 on your phone, and so you're like, that gives me
And I agree
pause.
with your use of the weird in this situation.
Because it shares your location at all times with everybody who you're sharing. And so there's nobody that I would want to share my location at all times with forever. I just wouldn't.
Not even your husband?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I hate that we even share a bank account because then he sees, like, he knows what he's getting for Father's Day because he saw the charge come up on the card, and because it says what, and so sometimes your location gives stuff away about things that you want to be a surprise.
And I just wonder, too, I mean, like, with that stuff, is it almost saying, like, I need to know where you are at all times because I don't trust you? Is it that vibe?
I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, I don't think so, but I'm slightly biased here.
But how
I do have the app.
but how many people have access to your location at all times?
So my family, so that's 3, and then my boyfriend 4.
People are listening, and now that they know no one knows my location, I'm going to get murdered, right?
Well, no, so my mom, like when my brother and I became teenagers, she had us download Life 360. So like when we were driving around with our friends or whatever, she could like keep an eye on where we were.
That's reasonable.
And also make sure that, you're home before curfew, even if she's not awake, because it'll tell you when you arrived at a location.
Oh, so you don't use it anymore?
Well, so I still have it. Like, I have no reason not to.
You
I
and
don't
your
care.
boyfriend share locations, right? Or no?
Yeah, we do.
That's weird. But I have so many Apple devices. Like, I have a wearable watch, right? And all of my Apple devices are connected. So if Chris really wanted to find me, he could get on my iPad and say, "Where's Stephanie's watch?" And it would tell him where I am, right? I mean, so I have it in a roundabout way, but
874-9390. By the way, more, and there's some other interesting things. Now, we're getting ready to open up this Amazon distribution center in Ashland, Amazon drone delivery project, something they've been talking about a long time. That's moving forward. Maybe some things we'll get into before 9 o'clock here on Wake Up Columbia, 93.9 The Eagle. How about those Cardinals? First place, NL Central. Monster games for Paul Schmidt yesterday. I think he got 3 home runs between the 2 games. Miles Michaelis, 1 strike away from a no-hitter. 30,000 people in this muggy Missouri night standing on their feet at Busch Stadium, applauding and cheering the mustachioed Miles Michaelis, hoping just one more pitch. Pittsburgh Pirate dude nails it out to deep center. Harrison Bader, him and his long hair running after the ball, and runs and dives almost to the wall and can't make the catch. And Cardinals lose a no-hitter. Win the game easily, 9-1. Brent, welcome into the show. What's up, man?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, when you was talking about Michaelis, it brought something to mind I want to share with you.
Okay.
It was an excellent day in a lot of ways yesterday. First of all, it was my birthday, and I played golf, and I made it all the way through, and I won some money.
Happy birthday. Good
Well,
work.
thank you. And then when he's talking about Michaelis, oh, wow, that was something if he could have done that. But here's another. They've set all kinds of records. Here's one. Yadier Molina set a record for 14,865 putouts.
Almost 15,000 putouts. That means he's caught, like, for example, the third strike on a strikeout.
Well, yeah, I mean, he catch foul balls and all that kind of stuff.
Foul balls, throwing.
He jumped over Pudge Rodriguez yesterday.
How about
so
that?
all that kind of stuff. And boy, I'll tell you what, if we win that game tonight against the Pirates, I want to see a picture of you guys tomorrow with your brooms, because that'll be a 4-game sweep.
How about that? Cardinals looking good. And I stole your line earlier this morning. Last pitcher to throw a no-hitter for the Kansas City Royals, the pitching machine.
Yeah.
Thank you for the line, Brent. Have a great day. 874-9390. Coming up, the Morning Bell Business News, that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. What do you have for us today?
it's been too long.
This show includes language and or cultural stereotypes that are inconsistent with today's standards of inclusion and tolerance and may offend some listeners. But not you. You get it. 93.9 The Eagle.
8:28 time for the Morning Bell Business News with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
For your daily Elon Musk update, apparently Elon is on Twitter saying that he did vote for Flores in the Texas special election. And so confirming he had said, he was going to vote Republican. He actually said, I did vote Republican. Also on Twitter, he said who he likes for the presidential race in 2024, suggesting that he would vote or that he likes DeSantis so far. So lots of DeSantis people happy about that. And then also something else interesting he's doing this week. Apparently he is addressing Twitter employees for the first time since his whole I'm going to take over Twitter. So there's a virtual company-wide meeting. I think it's happening tomorrow. And he's even going to take questions from Twitter employees. So a big day for Elon and his Twitter venture.
In him voting for that Mayra Flores, it's kind of historical for a couple of reasons. Number one, she is the first Mexican-born person to be elected to Congress. She got 51% of the vote at least, and she is the Republican outside of the San Antonio area fulfilling a term vacated by somebody else.
Weather check brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all of your cooling needs, log on to airserve.com. It's 80 degrees.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. Former President Trump goes 1 for 2, taking out House Republicans in South Carolina. Tom Rice voted to impeach Trump and lost his primary.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina, who also angered the former president, fended off her Trump-backed primary challenger. And Republican Mayra Flores has won a special election in South Texas, flipping a blue seat red to become the first Mexican-born congresswoman.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. The World Health Organization announces the monkeypox virus will be renamed at the suggestion of a group of scientists.
They wrote, in the context of the current global outbreak, continued reference to and nomenclature of this virus being African is not only inaccurate, but is also discriminatory. The CDC says the virus was actually first found in monkeys at a Danish research facility back in 1958.
Fox's Jill Nato. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 8:31 and Robinson saves you time. 81 right now at 8:31 in Columbia, and we have a temperature of 82 degrees in Jefferson City. It's going to be hot. Our heat advisory has been extended through 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. Good morning. I'm Brian Hauswirth. We begin with a quick update on traffic. Columbia Police still on scene of a multi-vehicle collision, Brown Station Road near Waco. Boone County Joint Communications telling 93.9 The Eagle the road is blocked. You want to avoid that area. One of our listeners saying one of the vehicles has flipped over. No reports right now of any injuries, but again, avoid that area. Brown Station Road near Waco, multi-vehicle collision. The Blair Oak School Board in Cole County's Wardsville hearing emotional testimony from parents on both sides of the district's transgender policy.
The Blair Oaks Board in Wardsville will now review policy and possibly make changes after parents spoke out before and against the transgender policy last night. The policy deals with transgender students' use of bathrooms, athletic teams, and other issues. Under the current policy at Wardsville, students who identify as transgender can change their names and pronouns to more closely match their gender identity once a year. The school district will also designate gender-neutral bathrooms in each building. John Marsh, Zimmer News Network.
John, thank you. The National Weather Service is warning about dangerous heat again today and tomorrow throughout mid-Missouri. The heat advisory has been extended, and Keith Comfort in court next week. He's accused of strangling his wife, putting her body in a dumpster. News brought to you this hour by Hemi Construction. It's 8:33. In sports, the Cardinals sweeping a doubleheader with the Pirates on Tuesday at Busch Stadium. They won the nightcap last night, 9-1. The day game during the early afternoon, 3-1. In that first game, Goldschmidt had a 2-run homer. Again, the Cardinals win the first game 3-1. The nightcap 9-1. The big story there, Miles Michaelis, 1 strike away from a no-hitter, but he gives up a double, 2 outs in the 9th inning. And Harrison Bader came close, maybe a foot, maybe not even that, of catching that ball. He dove on the warning track, just could not get it. Michaelis now 5-4. Cardinals and the Pirates again tonight. First pitch right here on your home for the Cardinals, 93.9 The Eagle at 6:45. San Francisco beat the Royals last night 4-2. They play again today, 2:45 at Oracle Park. Our sports is brought to you by Witt Print Shop, where your printed products are so much more than ink and paper. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:34. Traffic check, MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. Our roads are pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. If you'd like to report a traffic issue, you can give us a call or a text. Our number is 573-874-9390. If you have any more information, for instance, on this Brown Station Road near Waco, any other description you can share with our listeners, let us know. We always appreciate that. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
The radio station, 93.9 The Eagle. The show, Wake Up Columbia, with Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah the producer, giving you news, analysis, and opinion.
Well, we meet people right where they're at in their crisis. So we'll listen to them, talk to them, hear what's the most urgent, and really meet them there, try to solve that crisis with providing resources. In some cases, that really is paying people's utility bills.
That's Megan Larson talking to KOMU Channel 8. She's with Love Columbia. By the way, Love Columbia, the charitable work that they do, a lot of what they do, I think is great because they're not just handing out, free stuff. They help people. Okay, so you need some money because for whatever reason, okay. Why did you get into this situation in the first place where you don't have the money to do this? Okay, so we're going to help you out here, but we're also going to help you so you don't get into that situation in the first place. But as we've seen, really, since January 20th, since the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021, more folks been needing assistance for things like with food and stuff like that. Utility assistance is a big thing. That's one of the big things that right now the folks from Love Columbia are helping out with. And if you're an Ameren customer, they're doing something kind of interesting when it comes to bills. And listen, especially with gas prices, and I think a lot of us are fortunate. We'll sit here and complain about paying $5 a gallon or whatever it is today. It's getting awfully close. Can at least still do it, and I've eliminated one trip, and I did that several months ago before we even went past $4 a gallon. I've eliminated one trip every day. I drive slower, but I always drive like an old man anyway. People make fun of me when they have to ride with me.
It's smart though.
If I'm driving,
I'm glad you're doing that.
Apparently, Hauswirth drives like an old man.
I can confirm that.
Like, I'll have people that sit in the back and like, come on, man. I'm like, well, I'm driving and I'll usually drive the speed limit. I do as much coasting as I can. Oh, here's a great tip for you today. Here's something you can do right now today to help save on fuel cost. Don't use the AC in your car. I know the heat index is going to be 100.
Are you kidding me? Didn't the CDC just say that the best way to fight heat-related illness is air conditioning?
State health director said that actually,
Right.
but yes, CDC too.
So can you imagine this imbalance or trying to balance these things? Like, hey, because of the guy in charge on the federal level has made gas prices so high, we want you to keep your air conditioner on as the feds because it's safer that way. But because the guy who's in charge has made gas prices so high, sometimes it's hard to keep the air on in your car. It's mind-boggling. But yeah, and I don't know how significant of a savings not running the AC in your car is, and I don't know.
Not worth it, whatever it is.
Yeah. And there's a lot of us that are fortunate, we're complaining about paying $5 a gallon for gasoline, but at the very least, we can still do it. So I've cut out one trip a day. I'm not going to see my dad this weekend, and it's Father's Day weekend, and I'm not going to see him. I've gone the past 3, but it's $100 a weekend just to go down. I say go down, but just to go south to St. Louis and see him for a few hours, you know?
Yeah, so this Ameren thing is they're trying to help you out, and I'm kind of like a bury my head in the sand. Like, I don't want to know how much I paid this month for gas.
Right, I just pay it. Here you go. Make it rain. Here's the money.
But I do think it's helpful. I got an email the first part of June, and it just said, "Welcome to your new usage alerts from Ameren," and I kind of ignored it. I'm like, I don't know what that is. But then a couple days later, they said, "Hey, just FYI, you've spent $70 so far in your billing cycle. You've got like half the billing cycle left. If you continue on the path that you've been on, your bill's going to be $116. And they said, oh, that's $6 above normal, apparently. So they're saying, hey, you're on a path to pay a little bit more this month. And some people do the budget billing. I'm not on budget billing, clearly. But I thought that's interesting because, halfway through the month.
Wait, hold up. Hold up. Because Hannah and I, if you're watching on the YouTube channel.
Don't drag me into this.
Well, okay, I'll only drag the people that are watching on YouTube. You'll see when Stephanie said, I don't do budget billing, obviously. Did you see me and Hannah look at it like, oh.
Don't throw me under the bus, man.
No, because, do you know what do you know what budget billing is?
I know what it is. It's something that obviously you don't use.
So you can go on budget billing with your utilities, and rather than paying a variable price every month, they look at your usage from last year, and then you pay the same amount every month. So in the summer, you don't pay more. They just say, hey, last year you spent $1,200, so you're going to pay $100 a month, and then you do a true up at the end. And so obviously, because I'm on a variable bill, and my thing is saying...
Here's what I heard, though, and here's what Hannah heard. I'm going to be like Joe. It's my deal. I'm responsible for it, but I'm going to blame everybody else. So I'm going to blame Hannah here.
Even
though she has nothing to do with it. Here's what Hannah heard. I'm not on budget billing.
Because I'm a lawyer.
Because I have so much money. I get to play with Wake Up Columbia every morning. And I'm an attorney, and I hang out with Tom Cotton and the Prime Minister of Japan. That's what Hannah heard.
And that's not... Budget billing is a specific thing that if you want to pay the same every month... You can do that. I don't do that. But if you're like me and you're not on budget billing, then this will help you. And you can say, oh, maybe I should knock that thermostat from 72 up to 74.
So it's showing you kind of almost in real time, or at least, hey, here's where you are right now, and you're up. I love that idea. So Joe and I have a lot in common. I'm forgetful like Joe is. I forget my words. I get lost in conversations. And much like Joe, I blame everybody else for the stupid crap I'm doing. So Hannah had nothing to do with that. She did. You can go back and watch the video later. You'll see she did not have this surprised look on her face. You'll see it. There's the proof.
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying Stephanie didn't see it happen, and then you brought attention to it.
I think I'm probably the only one in the room who does monthly budgeting actually and budgeting software. So if anyone is on a budget, it's me. So
that's probably true.
Yes.
I don't know, Hauswirth. Do you?
I do a budget. I do. I have to because it's just I just have to. I really have to watch what I'm doing.
But like writing down budgeting, or because I have a budget too, it's just not on paper.
No, I write it down. I write it down.
See, I think that's where Hannah and I are like, we have budgets.
I mean, my budget is the check that gets deposited into my account twice a month. That's my budget.
I have a software system that I love, and I could tell you how much by month I spent on restaurants for the last 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really, yeah.
It's really
mine's
nerdy,
a little more.
I think is what you were trying to say, Brian.
Mine's a little more old school, but it's still I try to do the same thing.
How old school is yours?
Very well,
like pen and paper.
Pen and paper. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and but at least I have a good idea where everything's going. So
yeah. So I have, and here's the funny thing. And my kid, who's a business owner now, good business owner. I feel bad. 10 years ago, he wanted to start doing this thing, and I was trying to be encouraging yet being realistic. And I was like, well, are you prepared for 3 to 5 years of done all this and that? And 10 years later, you're doing really well. But it was funny when he would learn when it comes to budgeting, which is very valuable, writing stuff down on paper, keeping track. There's a lot of value to it. But he would be like, well, we'll go do this. And he'd be like, and I would tell him, I'd say, Trevor, that's not in the budget. And he would say, what do you mean you can't afford it? And humble brag, I would go, whoa, I didn't say I couldn't afford it. Is what I said is...
Of course you would do that with your own kid.
It's not a priority.
It's
not in the budget.
It's not in the budget.
It's like paying $4.99 for crescent rolls. Drew, we ain't doing that.
We're just not.
We can obviously afford it, Drew. I mean, we don't even do budget billing with Everett, of course. We can afford crescent rolls, but it's not in the budget. 874-9390. John, welcome into the show. What's up, buddy?
Oh, not a whole lot. Good hot day to you.
Amen.
Your budget there, one of the things that I guess at the very beginning, when you join a basic training in the military wise, that's the first thing they teach you is budget. And I mean, they make you write down the dollar bill numbers, the 20s when you spend them, you have to redo it. So you actually know how to survive, so to speak, with what you have. The big thing I've seen in civilian life is the first thing people do, especially young kids and everything. They work 40 hours a week, and it's only for 5 days, but they have to budget for 7. Or you only get paid for 20 days in a month, but you have to budget for 30. Mm-hmm. So it gets pretty tough. Some people just, they can't do it, period, because of that. That's why the kids run out of Monday.
Man, I'm glad you took time out of your day to call and share that with us, John. We hope you have a great one. Thank you for being a part of Wake Up Columbia, because it is, if you've never done it, because here's what I always thought. I got enough money. I don't need a budget, and I still don't keep it in writing, but I know, because as soon as they put money into my bank, they put money in my bank account twice a month to come here and do this. Unbelievable.
Well, and it's just you at home, so it's not like you... Why did you shake your head no? It's just you at home, so like you have, less people to budget for as well.
Yeah. But I know, and as soon as the money, it goes elsewhere, and I know, I've got this to get gas and food. I don't know.
Discretionary income's down, obviously, for most Americans. There's no doubt.
It was the single biggest complaint I had. I went back onto campus up at Truman State, and I said, "You all taught me so many valuable things. Some things I will never use again. But the single biggest thing that I needed to learn from you was budgeting." I had student loans, and you did zilch on that. I mean, I think after you take out a student loan, you have to, when I was at Mizzou, you had to go to like an hour-long presentation about like, hey, by the way, you do have to pay this back. But I said it should be part of the liberal arts program. It should be a required course, some sort of personal finance, because people just do a terrible job of it. And I mean, my minimum loan payment, I think when I first came out, was almost $2,000 a month.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it was up there. And so we had no choice but to budget if you're paying that much on your student loans. And so, and I think it's irresponsible, and of Mizzou and of Truman and of any other institution of higher education to dole out these student loans and not teach people how to be responsible with their money.
And I think it's irresponsible when you're in a position of leadership, like of a country, and you don't know how to budget, or you're a lawmaker and you don't, hey, Social Security, we're running out by, we've been saying for years 2035, but now it's 2034. Well, how come? Well, because we can't budget. And you know who covers this in masterful detail every day? Gary Nolan Show coming up. About 9 o'clock here on 93.9 The Eagle. Also, anybody got any tasty stuff or leftovers in the fridge this morning? I think I've got a bunch of stuff that we didn't get to because...
The power of local talk. Wake Up Columbia with Branden. 93.9 The Eagle.
President Biden has appointed whack jobs. I mean, it's like these people dropped acid in an Outback parking lot. You can't reason with them.
So 2 things there. Senator from John Kennedy hanging out with Sean Hannity last night on Fox. I didn't know if you knew this or not, but Sean Hannity hosts a show every day here from 2 to 4, right before the Randy Tobler Show. That's a local show, by the way. Randy Tobler Show. Pretty good, Randy Tobler. So from 2 to 4, right before Tobler comes on, it's Sean Hannity. But last night, that's Senator John Kennedy, the Republican from Louisiana, on Sean Hannity's show. 2 things there. Number one, what a great thing. Like, people dropped acid in an Outback Steakhouse parking lot, which is funny. But he's talking about the people that because we got this, Stephanie and I got this question last week. Well, tell us something the president can do now regarding gas prices. And the point that we were making is when you're in charge, good things happen. You get to take credit. When you're in charge and the bad things happen,
you're also supposed to take credit.
You're supposed to take credit.
It's like you always say on the show, like, we win as a team and we lose as a team.
Yeah. We all get credit. We all take the blame. And
yeah, we do.
And it is what Kennedy is saying there. He's like, he has surrounded himself with poor people at every single level, people that just don't know what they're doing. And that's why when you're going to get gas today, you're paying almost $5 a gallon. That's why when you go and get a can of Campbell's Chunky Soup, you're going to pay $2.59. It used to be $1.89. That's why these things are happening, because even though it's not just Joe, he has surrounded himself with a bunch of people that know nothing about budgeting. They know nothing really about reality. It's all this flowery stuff. Let's do this and let's use these words and let's do all these things. And I'll bet you $1.
Ooh.
I'll bet you steak.
So you're not real confident if it's just $1.
I'll bet you a steak dinner. I'll bet you $1 million, because nobody's going to be at the pump today paying almost $5. No Biden voter is going to be at the pump today paying almost $5 a gallon for gasoline, having to make almost life-changing decisions regarding their budget, going, yeah, but thank gosh, Joe is so woke and so gender, all this stuff. They're not saying that. They just simply aren't. We are just over a week away. Annual Central Missouri Honor Flight with Diamond Pet Foods. It's a Central Missouri Honor Flight Radiothon. More info is on our website, 939theeagle.com. Midmo Telecom, Living Canvas, Atterbury Auctions, A1 Containers, just some of the folks that are going to be helping us out this year.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers on 93.9 The Eagle. Enjoy.
All right, leftover, some of the things that we didn't get to on the show today because Hannah was consistently running behind and running long all morning long.
Bro.
All right, sorry, I'm doing Joe again. I'm blaming somebody else for the bad crap I'm doing.
You know what we didn't get to today that I know you're really excited to talk about again?
What's that?
Putin's briefcase.
Oh my gosh! No.
Did you see we got a tweet about that?
I didn't. So they talked. I knew the story, but didn't read the story. I heard. Listen, when I heard Putin briefcase and the other word, I walked out of the studio. As a matter of fact, you can see it. If you go back and watch yesterday's video on our YouTube channel, you can see. I'm not making this. I left so that the two girls can finish talking about Putin's bodily functions. I walked out of the show. They finished it up because I didn't want to stick around for it. And then you have something to add to that today.
Well, I was just going to recap real quick since you missed it last time. I'm going to make it the least amount of gross as possible.
All right.
So Vladimir Putin is so afraid that, foreign leaders might analyze his bodily functions and get info on his medical conditions that when he travels abroad, when he goes to the bathroom, it is collected and it's taken back to Russia and disposed of in Russia. So one of the people on his staff has to handle all of that when he's out of the country.
So somebody can literally, what do you do? Well, I handle all their crap. Literally.
Yeah.
And what's the fear? that people are going to steal his biomedical information, right?
Pretty much. Like if he's suffering from any medical conditions that he doesn't want everybody to know about, I guess he's afraid that somebody would analyze.
Also, in leftovers today, it's the end of an era. Microsoft shutting down the OG Internet Explorer today.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Also, a big endorsement yesterday, I think, in the 4th congressional race. The Missouri Farm Bureau weighed in and endorsed Kalina Bruce.
She's running for that 4th congressional district seat. That's the seat currently held by Hartzler and Farm Bureau Insurance. I don't think they haven't made a whole lot of endorsements. Not really a big thing. No,
not in primaries.
All right, coming up, we are getting ready for the Gary Nolan Show tomorrow. James Gray talking about Juneteenth events that are happening this weekend in town, and surprisingly, where the flack is coming from. See ya.
Bye.